You have been fired up, to say the least, about Callie and his sister Casey and some of the messaging that they are pushing on various podcasts and social media. They are talking a lot about the hyper-processed foods and pharma, and you've been questioning, I think, a lot to do with like their background, where they come from, and their messaging in particular. And Callie, I think that you feel that some of the stuff Jack's saying is untrue and in bad faith.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. You probably know what happens next. But do you know who wrote this poem and when? Do you know where the tradition of the Christmas tree comes from? Lights on the Christmas tree, stockings, even the idea of gift giving. No holiday has a richer and more varied tradition than Christmas. So let's look into its history and see if we can uncover some of that richness and tradition. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, well, at least you'll have a better appreciation of why so many people do. Here's what everybody knows. Christmas is when Christians celebrate the birthday of Jesus Christ. That in itself is a very big deal. Christianity, in all its many iterations, remains the most popular religion in the world.
To get started, because I didn't know we were going to do this, but Leah brought down a bunch of stuff. What we did to... What do you mean no volume? It's probably her computer, because I'm seeing it.
You got it, Mom?
Here.
Yeah, she got it. Okay.
No, wait, now I'm not... I don't hear myself. Is she sure she has it? Did it just like all of a sudden come? Okay, we're going to start over. Don't know why there was no audio at the beginning. Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. What is that? That's a resistance pig. I am here. We are back. We are alive. I did not have to miss Christmas. Let me tell you what happened after the Christmas special that we did. And, you know, I really think that Christmas Eve. The Oscar goes to. Now, I didn't try that hard the whole time, right?
I don't feel like you did.
No, I didn't try hard. But at the end, I really was trying hard to stay alive. Like, to stay awake. Mm-hmm. And to not just say, hey, guys, I've got to go.
I told you could go.
I know, but I was so close. And, like, who wants to leave literally during the prayer? I was tempted. So what I did was... As soon as it was over, I face palmed in my pillow and just stayed there for like 3 hours.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, just stayed there.
Sitting in the chair?
No, I face palmed in my pillow. I just like my desk is here, and I just crawled into bed and just like that was it. I was done. So all of Christmas Eve night, I was fighting for my life. This is an exaggeration, but it was brutal. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss Christmas, which I really wasn't that upset about it, because when you're that sick, you can't think to yourself you're sad that you're going to miss Christmas. You just like are sad you're sick. So we had done, and I want to do, Leah, a whole episode on this. I don't know if you want to do this here tonight. We can give them a little bit.
I very much liked
You
my
got this cute little
own
hat.
singing. You just got me this for Christmas. Mom did.
Okay. Let me
Mom
finish
got
this
me
thought
this.
process. So that's really cute. Is that your ship stamp?
That's my George Washington crossing the Delaware.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I can see it. Looks more like Paddington Bear, but
I am.
okay.
Yes.
So anyway, we hit it hard. Now, I think that whatever it is that I had specifically, which is so weird. Here's what makes me think it might be a COVID variant.
Yep.
Because what has been consistent about COVID variants is there what? Inconsistencies.
Between people.
So 2020, I get it. Literally, you know what's so funny? Uncle Jack had a heart surgery New Year's Day
I know.
in 2020.
I know.
And I had COVID.
Yeah.
Uncle Jack has a knee surgery January 6th,
I know.
5 days after that.
Uh-huh.
And we just are getting over this thing. So
I think it was the Omicron.
So we get it. I
know.
get that. 2 weeks later, Leah still has, she got it from me, but she got that the dry cough. Remember when everybody was talking about the dry cough that wouldn't go away? Leah got that.
Terrifying. You couldn't sleep.
But your symptoms weren't the same
No.
as mine were. But you clearly got it from me, which is so weird. Because that's what makes you think they have spliced all these different things together in a lab and threw it out.
Here's the problem. I bet we had the same blood type. Because there are so many times, I mean, we share a room.
We don't share a room. We share an entire upstairs of a Cape Cod.
We share a
breathing space.
A breezeway, right? But like nobody else got what we got. But I didn't really get sick, really.
Okay, so back to this. Mm-hmm. Same thing where we both had kind of the same symptoms of the headiness.
No.
I mean the nose. Not
just
the
yesterday,
vertigo.
Just yesterday, I got a little drippy.
But my symptom, like I went through the flu.
Yeah.
Which you did not.
I just was super, super tired, and that feeling that's kind of like something isn't right. My
feeling was that somebody took 1,000 Mike Tyson blows to my kidneys. Mm-hmm. That was my feeling. You didn't have that feeling.
Mm-hmm. Should I go get the other things or no?
What are the things?
The
whole. We can't bring down the whole regimen. Stuff? No, but we can tell them about it. So, my point is, we know so many people that are going through sicknesses right now, and there's only so much going around,
and
symptoms are varying. The lingering cough.
The problem is, guys,
not
everything works for everything. Okay, so we found out last year. We thought we had everything we needed for COVID-y stuff, and we did all the things and nothing hit the flu. It just hit back harder and harder and harder and harder and harder.
Whatever that thing was, I don't know.
Last year, what Mom got and Michelle and Matt and Neil Peterson got, and just made everybody feel like they were dying. Nothing could hit it. So, I brought down some things that no matter what the stinking world is what in the wide sports of microphones.
Can't get your mic in.
It's going on around here. Okay, so this is. I'm going to show you weapons that you need, and I put one in my pocket.
So we do have a show for you tonight. It's not going to be news.
We
have one news story that we're going to give you.
So we're going to talk today about the MAHA movement, and there was an interview with Dr. Mary Bowden, and you guys heard there's a brother and sister team going around. One was a Stanford, one's a Harvard, and they're going around and they're entering into our movement, our sphere, and they're talking about health and all these things. But people are rightfully distrustful of them. They seem robotic. They seem a little bit like Mark Zuckerberg. And there's a lot of disingenuous people out there. And what I didn't understand was that there's, a lot of people still want they're still trying to stop the jabs from going out to people, right? Because they're still harming people. And I didn't take the tag off the back of my hat. Yeah, I was sure. And they're still giving them to kids, right?
Right.
So along comes the MAHA movement, and they want to talk about food and seed oils and all those things causing health problems.
Which are very real, and I love that topic.
And there's a debate that we're going to cover tonight. And I don't know if we just can come off of Facebook and then back onto Facebook.
No.
So, but usually kind of want to end with Christmas. You don't want to start with Christmas, do you? Because Christmas ending with Christmas is the happy stuff, and I don't really want to end with the vaccine debate, because that can end make you sad.
Or we'll just tell everybody that's watching on Facebook right now, which is not very many people, to you're not getting a show today. You have to watch it on Rumble. I will
Can't
go
come back
grab
for the
link.
music
Now,
and the
but you have
Saint
other stuff
Nicholas.
that we can do. You don't want to do any of our protocols on Facebook?
No, I am.
Okay, then let's do that right now.
Okay.
I have to say goodbye to Facebook. So
I got a
we're going to
weapon
get
for
to
you.
all these different things. So first of all, we're going to talk about what we've done to lessen what normally people are. This is lasting for like 3 or 4 weeks. We're pretty much over it in 3 or 4 days. So we're going to give you all of that information. And then we're going to talk about the Cali Means weird thing and the MAHA movement. And then we're going to do 2,000 Years of Christmas. And you saw Bill Federer at the start. He's one of my favorites. And we're going to do some Christmas carols and singing. So Christmas ain't over yet.
No, Christmas not over yet.
All right, go ahead.
I got your weapon. What is this, you may ask? Is this a COVID test? Is this for my ear? No. You know why they stuck things up in the back tip of your nose, which thank you, God. I never did it. I never did it.
Your nose is
I
virgin.
never did it. I have never taken a COVID test. I feel good about that. But I learned something, and you all learned something. That up in the tippy top, right up, like right here, is where viruses hang out and live. That's why they got to get up
That's
here.
where they live. It's where they reproduce. It's
living,
a harem going on up in there.
It is. It's a harem. Mm-hmm. It's a harem. It's right here, guys. Okay. Now, I am not telling you to stick this thing up to your eyeball, but I'm giving you. I'm not giving you.
We're not giving any.
advice.
But full disclosure, we're not giving you any medical advice. As a matter of fact, this is speaking of medical advice. This video will may get taken down off of YouTube, but
I don't know. It's iodine. Guys, sorry, it's a mess. Drippy iodine here. You see that? Povidone iodine. You see that? It's just iodine. It's just iodine. It's just iodine. Povidone iodine. You can get the other kind. Now, I ain't gonna tell you what to do,
you're gonna tell them what you did.
but I'm gonna tell you what I did. Put some iodine on this thing, and I swirl it, and I flip it, and I swirl it on the inside, and then to get it where the sun don't shine,
Not up your butt. That's generally where the sun
I
will
like
shine.
this.
Meaning to get it into all of your sinus cavities, because you have to understand your sinus cavities go through your whole like brain, and but specifically in front of your
So
forehead
if you've
here.
ever done a neti pot, they're kind of brutal, pretty hard to do.
They're really
okay?
hard to do. This thing is genius.
And this stays sanitary for like a long time.
So for the podcast listeners that are just listening,
it's
Leah,
Arm
could
&
you
Hammer Simply Saline Nasal Mist.
It's a jet pack for
and it's
shooting
daily.
that stuff up in there.
It's safe enough for daily care. Okay.
It's really great stuff.
How many times did I do this? At least 10 times a day.
I only did it like 4 or 5 times a
At
day.
least 10 times. Now, second, there are 2 places where viruses replicate, and then they go to the rest of your body.
The back of your throat,
Right here
in your nasal cavity.
and in here. Okay? Now, you can do all that you want to get your team ready to fight off the invaders. And you can bring out the vitamin C and the vitamin D and, the vitamin K
and you will do all
and
that.
the ivermectin and all that jazz, and you can fight from the inside. That's once the invaders have gotten through the fence. But the invaders are sitting there, proliferating and garnering reinforcements and then sending them through the gate. The number one thing you can do is fend them off at the gate from sending in reinforcements, because the greater the invaders, the more you're going to feel invaded. Okay?
Wow, that
This
was
is really great for YouTube. Right? Okay. The more the invaders, the
Yeah, but
more
you already said the eye thing.
I said it
But I don't think they divided it. They know.
I divided it. Okay. The more the invaders and okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to stop the dam. And you're not going to stop it up, because some invaders are going to have a constant breakthrough and a constant breakthrough and a constant breakthrough, which is why you're going to do this over and over and over and over again. Because each time you do, It's like sweeping.
invaders.
Have you ever swept? You get it in a big pile. Then you got to sweep it up and you got to go in. Then you got to sweep it up and you got to go.
And
again.
imagine your dust pile was reproducing while you were sweeping.
That's exactly what is happening. Every time you go and dump the dustpan, it's reproducing, but it's less each
But if
time.
you can get ahead of it,
if you can get on it and you can get ahead of
it can only reproduce itself that's there. So if there's less of itself there.
So your second line of defense. Boom. This right here. It's actually fun to use.
It hurts.
Not so bad.
It's painful.
There's one of them that they suggest has like a certain ingredient. I don't think this is the one that's supposed to. There's
You're supposed to use Listerine.
No, I think there's a word that begins with a C. I think that they really recommend. I think this works too.
In my notes that I've been sending everybody that's been asking, because I made a Facebook post about this today, I just said get preferably the kind that's painful.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. And so you gargle and gargle and gargle and gargle
10 times a day.
10 times a day at least. So what you're gonna do is you stop the invaders. Okay. Now, for your comfort, and you don't really want to do this right away because you need to. When you're at the drip stage, and not at the I didn't get to the drip stage until day 2. Okay, when you're at the drip stage and you've gotten like, if you've got gunk and stuff, this might not help. These little Afra no drips, so you don't
get the off-brand.
So you don't get everybody else sick. What happens when you're sneezy
and drippy,
and you're going to get everybody else. Now, there are a couple other things that I highly recommend.
It's number 1 on the list is the word that Leah said earlier for this specific thing.
But it may not work if you got the flu, so
I think it works for everything, but that's my humble opinion.
It didn't work for us last year.
It doesn't work for everything, but I mean, I think it works for most things.
I know, I was just shocked.
They're still not sure. They still haven't compiled. It's inexhaustive what all things this stuff does for you that's good.
Yeah, 12 milligrams.
24.
Two or 3 of them. Go to the Frontline Critical Care. They've got they keep revamping their recommendations.
And my go-to doc, you can get this all prescribed to you from a doctor, teledoc.
Yeah, you can get it all prescribed.
MyGoToDoc.com.
Now, when we had the flu last year, I got a couple homeopathic things that didn't touch it. It was like the invaders had already broken through. But I think that if you use them early, they work. So there's one called...
You need me to bring this up?
Sure. It's a box.
The oscillocillus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's cheaper if you get it on Amazon.
We'll just go to Amazon and find it. Have you ordered it recently?
I just put it in on a subscribe and save.
Okay.
That's what I did. So again, last year when we were trying to hit things, I'm glad I had this on hand because
here it is.
It's I use this Boreon for like leg cramps and stuff, and for motion sickness, like when I'm getting. I didn't even bother. I gave a bottle to Matt. I gave a bottle to Mom. And nobody. It didn't seem to help anybody.
I want to,
but I'm. Oh, I can't. This side be reached. I'm not.
I want to make sure you do the neck gear. I did, but just do neck. It's in the bee food, unfortunately. But you can just sign into neck gear if you want. I want to let you guys know that
Is it on?
Yes, it's on. That as I was putting this list together, I realized that it's a lot. And we just go get it out of the baby food. We have been compiling this stuff for 4 years since COVID. And so when I'm sending this list out to people, I'm like, dude, because I told people, I said, I'm not going to just post this on Facebook, but if you want it, private message me. And I've had like so many people requesting it. I probably have like 6 of them sitting there that I still need to send out.
And you just copy and paste?
I have been copying and pasting. Obviously, of course, I'm not typing it all out. It's too long. I will put it on the website on today's show. But also, Leah is going to, in all of her spare time, but specifically if we're not doing our family Christmas tomorrow, which we were supposed to, you will have time to do this, which is update the what to do if you get the bug or what to do before you get the bug. And it's on our website. It's something that Leah's been, it has gone viral, no pun intended, specifically after COVID, because Leah did all of her research for everyone. And we had people that were messaging us panicked in 2020, in 2021, who had this. And Leah just, she kind of did what Dr. Artist did, and she just patiently answered all the emails and then finally put it all together and just started sending the email to people. And it's amazing to me how many people still need their handheld to walk through these things. Mm-hmm. Zycam is huge. I don't know that that's on my list either. Need to add that. So Leah, you're going to update the 2 articles, I think.
I think I need to just make I don't know, like, I like that kind of work that was like I'm not exactly sure.
No,
because
it's a great resource. You just keep adding to it.
There's so many different things happening. And what I feel bad about is that, pretty much you and Matt, I don't know what it felt like whatever I was doing for you guys last year was
and you know what's interesting? So one of my friends that sent me a request for the protocol that we did, she was saying that, what was it? Stop. Do.
Do you want me to bring this up for you? So the next thing, I don't know if you can bring this up while you're talking. It's BHI flu, cold and multi-symptom relief, natural, safe, non-drowsy remedy. You take like 1 to 2 of these. It says every half an hour to an hour until things subside. The reason I got it is take 4 initially, and then you just hit it for an hour, and then an hour.
And I did it. I did every half an hour, and it didn't feel like why am I doing this? And I just kept doing it. But I want to get back to this thought. You're kidding.
But I see us going.
When we were screen sharing, probably. Let me check the screen share real quick. Hang on. I'm not sure why the screen share was muted. I'm really sorry.
Okay,
about that, guys.
so I read all those reviews on that. So basically, I got this stuff too late. Once the dam has broken last time, it was too late. Okay. The homeopathic stuff works when you are feeling a little bit under the weather, when you start to feel that achiness in your body, when you start to feel that you're not just tired, when you have that like post-nasal drip, that sore throat. That's when you'd start to take these things, and you take it like once every hour, and you can keep it,
I was taking it. I muted myself. I was taking them literally, and it didn't feel like, I'm like, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. But I think it really helped.
So between the two homeopathic remedies, I think that really helped. And I think that the this thing, every time I did this, I felt it go away. Like I felt something die. Like I felt it die. Like I could feel it. It's really weird, because if you think of a virus as like a parasite, right? I told Michelle every time I was like, I just feel better. Like I felt better. And it would come back on. That would mean that the iodine had worn off and it was time to do it again. So again, if you're just joining us, I'm telling people that your first line of defense is right here. You can get povidone iodine sprays. I've found that they're a little bit harsh, that they you can't use them as much. But just rubbing iodine in your nose and then kind of getting it to go around in your nose with
the Simply Saline.
With this is something that, so at Sam's, you can get a pack of 3. So go, if you got, 3 people in your family.
Don't share them. Just give everybody their own. So like I keep one in my room.
Yeah.
All year long. My own.
So put their name on it. Okay. Now not everybody needs their own mouthwash. You can share that, right? But just don't put your mouth on it. We all know how to do that. All right. These 2 things, if you don't have everything else, if you don't have any vitamins, if you don't have any of that.
Because I'm going to get to all that in a minute.
Because your immune system itself, by God, is designed to fight things off.
Right.
But if you can get a hold of the virus is replicating, then that is, you can stay up on it.
So what I did was, at the very first sign, where I was like, you know what? I thought I had vertigo. And I thought,
because that happens when the weather changes.
Right. But it turns out that, so right before that, I thought I might be getting sick because I had a headache and the pressure was changing. Mm-hmm. But I thought, you know what? Just in case, I'm going to go ahead and chew some nicotine gum.
Okay.
The nicotine gum gave me what I thought was my vertigo symptoms that I've had in the past.
Okay.
So note that. Okay.
I get no side effects from the patch. I don't even know it's on.
But I've chewed the gum in the past, and I went to the store and I was going to Tim the Toolman tailor it. I had been chewing the 2 milligrams, and I thought, I'm going 4, baby. Dr. Artis, watch this. And the 4 was like way too much. It was way heady for me. So don't do the 4, do the 2. 7 milligrams if you're doing the patch, or get a bigger one and cut them in half. So my first line of defense was the nicotine. Then when I realized I actually am getting sick, I had the tickle in the throat, and it was like it was just starting. Let me tell you what I did. And this is huge. Now, I'm not telling you to do this because I'm not a doctor, and this is not medical advice. I'm telling you what I did, and we'll just put this caveat. I'm crazy. Don't do what I did. Whatever. I went to the vitamin C, and we have these big capsules of vitamin C. I just dumped a bunch in my hand and swallowed them. And I did the same, I didn't do the exact same thing with the vitamin D. I did about 6 of we have gel capsules. I don't know how many's in them. I did about 6 of those. Selenium, I did about 6 of those. This is way over what they'll tell you you'll die if you do what I did, which is ridiculous, but whatever. I went and I took a double dose of the Iver, and
I tripled it.
Leah tripled it. There was one day that I did triple it. I took zinc glycinate. I took L-glutathione.
And you did the nebulizer.
2 of those. I did the nebulizer with
saline, and I was going to bring this up.
Saline and the glutathione. Now, we're going to get into that in a minute. The glutathione is a building block of life for humans, really. And Dr. Artis swears by it. If you've ever taken NAC, glutathione is actually the base of that, okay? And so, because I told Dr. Artis I couldn't take NAC one time, and he's like, well, then just take glutathione, because that's what I'm trying to get in you anyway. I'm like, oh, okay, so I can do that. Nebulized NAC or glutathione is like youth repairing for your whole cells.
But there's only one kind.
One company specifically.
One kind. So Michelle brings this up. I actually was so impressed with it that I asked if I could become an affiliate, and I have an affiliate link for it, but I don't know where it's at. And I've been meaning to do, I do know where it's at. It's in my email, but I haven't done anything with this. And it's one product, one thing that I have not shared with you guys that I think I should have already, but I haven't. Just because. So
the website is Thera, Thara, naturals.com. Thera, Thara, naturals.com.
Had all that mucus. Dr. Syed Hyder prescribed NAC nebulized. It's a solution that's specific. You can't, people do it online, but then as I was reading it, they said that you can tear up your lungs by just trying to come up with your own solution because it has to be pH balanced. Right. And I did nebulize once with a regular glutathione and my lungs burned. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I'm not going to do that again. Right. So then I found this guy, he wrote a whole book on colloidal silver and L-glutathione for asthma and this specific brand. So when you click on, it's called Reduced L-glutathione Plus. And there are several reviews on this, and it's so simple. I'm sure you can make it yourself, but I'm not going to. It's got 200 milligrams of glutathione and 55 milligrams of baking soda. Mm. And that is the pH balance, I guess. Now, what I like to do, so you can go get a nebulized treatment of glutathione. Your body cannot actually receive glutathione orally through your stomach. It's just like you're just getting a fraction of it. But your body can receive it nebulized almost the whole way.
And you need it so bad.
So when you go to some of these places that offer like IV drips, they will offer NAC and glutathione nebulized. But it's like $200.
Wow.
But
isn't it like a fountain of youth?
It's a fountain of youth.
I should do it more often.
I'm
going to do it more often.
So we were making the liposomal glutathione and taking it every day. But guys, I understand that when you do all these things, it takes a lot of work. I will tell you, knowing what I know about this L-glutathione, knowing that I have 2 or 3 bottles of this, you would think I would do it more often.
Okay, so I want to hit on this. This is the biggest bit of advice that I can give to you guys. If you ever get sick and you have a persistent cough that will not stop, this right here is what is going to be your ticket, okay? It's not as potent as the nebulized NAC that is prescribed over the counter, okay? But it'll get you halfway there. Mm-hmm. Prescribed over the counter.
Especially if it's
prescribed by a doctor.
Based.
But I think, I can't, we had a conversation with Dr. Hyder about him developing a product like this that would be available. Right. He's the one that prescribed it for my mom when no doctor could help her with that cough when she came out of the hospital.
It was brutal.
And so he's like, let's just do this. Then we couldn't find it anywhere. Thank you to all of the COVID lockdown people that wanted to get rid of NAC in any form. But they used to use this
all the time.
All of the
time.
And
it was cheap.
For a whole host of things. But what was it specifically that they would use it for? For people having those coughing attacks?
Yeah. No.
It was for something else.
It's for breathing.
Regardless, doesn't matter. We had so much trouble getting it. The only place that we could get it
was our local
the hospital pharmacy. And even then they didn't really want to give it to us. Now the pharmacist was really nice about it, but
then he's like, you don't want to buy it because in these little bottles, I'll just give it to you in the big bottles. The problem is that it goes bad after 3 or 4 days.
So you want it in the little bottles.
And so you need it in the little vials.
Or you do it like this. It's not as potent, but still effective, and you make it fresh every time.
Right.
So what are we doing specifically with this?
So 2 milligrams of colloidal silver, and you have to get the right particle kind. Okay, you have to do your research. I'll do it better in the article. There's a certain kind of particle kind that you have to get if you're going to nebulize colloidal silver. And you just open the capsule and you put it in there.
Okay.
And when I do it, after I do it, I feel alive. Like it just like, phew.
I need to do another one today.
I was
Remind
going to
me
give it to you.
afterwards.
I
We'll do it.
love
We'll do it
doing
today.
it. It just takes time, put it all together. Because here's the thing. We have 2 of them, but then I need another cord for the other one. So then I have to go into
nebulizers.
Mom's room and get her nebulizer and grab it from her. So I need another cord for my nebulizer, or I would actually do this more. I actually had it all set up one day, and I need another cap thingy and another cord, and not just keep going to Seal Mom's. But people on the reduced glutathione, what they say is reached 100% blood oxygen saturation levels with this. I'm 74 years old. I'm a 74-year-old doctor living at 5,000 feet elevation. I nebulized 4,000 milligrams. 400 milligrams of reduced glutathione plus enhanced absorption. Ultra purity grade reached 100% blood oxygen saturation levels during my session. I feel fantastic. I use this in my nebulizer instead of steroids, and it works really well, especially when I experience a flare-up. This is my go-to survival supplement. I nebulize it and feel much better when I do. It's the best thing I've ever taken. I would give this 2 thumbs up. It has allowed me to reduce my inhaled medications for COPD and asthma. You've got to try this.
Don't read that one. It's too long.
Okay. But you
They
guys
can go in. They can read them all. I want to get through all this stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
so you guys,
Coughing
we
less,
could talk
sleeping
all
better.
day. We could do a whole show on nebulizing. The other thing that we have nebulized in the past, which I think this is more effective, what we just shared with you. But before we started doing this, we were nebulizing. You can buy on Amazon these little saline packets that break off. They're the perfect amount that you squirt inside of your nebulizer cup, and you put in how many drops of food grade hydrogen peroxide?
1
drop of food grade hydrogen peroxide.
1 drop of iodine.
And 1 drop of iodine. And what that does is the equivalent of what Leah was talking about with the nasal swabbing, meaning as you're breathing it in, you're taking an aerosol form of the peroxide and the iodine that is going through your system, and you're breathing it. So that's
Now,
really, really effective.
I want to be clear. Colloidal silver and iodine react chemically. So you don't want to do them at the same time or after each other or with each other. Do not put your iodine with your colloidal silver. Wait a few hours. You can switch throughout the day.
The silver is for the L-glutathione.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to nebulize it for any other reason than that.
You can. It's like a cleanser, just like the
I mean,
iodine.
with the iodine or the peroxide or anything like that. There's no...
I know, but some people just do that instead of the iodine peroxide.
Okay, no, you can totally do it. So there's your nebulizer stuff. Now, I did the vitamin C. I told you about all the vitamins that I took.
Then the emergency. I was going heavy on those. Are expensive.
So there's 2 brands. One's called Airborne, and one is called Emergency. They are both immune system boosting, high in vitamin C drink mixes.
And the
I was doing
Emergency
both
have
of them.
D and zinc in it, but the zinc is in such a form that I don't get sick to my stomach.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Some people do, and I took 4 of them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I just kept drinking them all day.
You know what else I took that didn't put on the list? And I don't know that this actually helped anything, but I asked you about it. The chlorella. I've been taking those every single day.
Yeah.
Tell them about that.
So Mom's doctor, Hakeem, recommend these seaweed. It's seaweed. It's called chlorella, and it's a little
It's an
tablets.
antioxidant.
And you chew them, and they just
detox.
taste like seaweed.
I didn't chew them. I've just been swallowing them.
Okay, I'm sure that your stomach can, but you're supposed to chew them, I think.
So I've been doing that every day by the handful. Not really. It was like 4 of them. So I've been doing that. Now I want to talk about comfort care. Okay. So we're talking about, number 1, all the things to do to stop the virus from spreading, all the things to do to boost your immune system, all of that. However, while you're going through this, we do not have an aversion to using store-bought products, depending on what they are. I tried to avoid like Theraflu, NyQuil. In the past, we have done, what are the Dayquil, drop, fizz, those things.
Alka-Seltzer Plus.
Alka-Seltzer Plus. First of all, if you can't do all the stuff that we just mentioned, make sure you are always stocked up on that stuff. Okay? Like, I'm dead serious. Just like, I'm not doing anything, Leah and Michelle, that you just said. That's fine. Get Alka-Seltzer Plus. It's the only thing that's going to help you survive these things. Okay? We didn't have to do any of that this time because of all these other things that we did, which made me feel really good. Because your immune system is designed by God to run, to actually take care of this. So what happens when you do the immunosuppressants is you're stopping your body's system from taking care of itself. So like the night that I was going through hell, I was so hot and I tried not to take the covers off because I knew that I needed to be burning. I had a fever. My face was on fire. I probably had 106 fever. Like my face was that hot. I could have cooked an egg on it. But I allowed that to remain because I knew it was going to be burning out the virus. So number one, this is my go-to for everything. These Ricola throat drops, if you're going to have a coughing fit, this is what you're going to want. They're honey, and they also have some little vitamins or whatever. There's your Comfort Care. You talked about the Zicam. Now, the Zicam isn't just Comfort Care. That is supposed to, it's zinc. It's supposed to reduce your length of having a cold, like I said the other day, like by 42%. It's highly effective.
Yeah.
We talked about the Afrin no drip. Just regular over-the-counter nasal decongestants. I didn't have to take those until yesterday, but I'm taking them so that I can not be super annoyed by sniffling all day long, okay? And they work. And a 12-hour allergy pill.
An allergy pill.
Taking those in combination. Leah just gave that to me last night.
Because you're telling your body you can stop now.
You can stop now. We've had enough of your immune response. So the other thing I need to get back to, so elderberry tincture. We've been doing a lot of tinctures around here. So many tinctures that Leah was drunk on tinctures.
I think I got a little tipsy.
She got a little tipsy on the tinctures. So elderberry tincture for your cough, mullein. Tincture. So these are Comfort Care things.
You don't have to get it in a tincture form.
You don't. You can get mullein in lots of different forms.
I didn't recognize, like, I slept all day.
And she's like, why am I so tired? Oh my gosh.
Christmas Day. And I just couldn't wake up. And and then I got real slap happy. And then I realized, you know what? I was taking a lot of Maya's tinctures all day.
That's funny.
Holy basil, elderberry, and mullein.
I think that's it on the Comfort Care. I forgot that I started doing, so if you can do castor oil packs, that's going to be your best bet. I'm too lazy for that. So I just started putting castor oil and oregano oil on my feet. Oregano oil mimics an antibiotic without having to take an antibiotic. And I put castor oil on my kidneys. That really helped. Like I can tell that it helped because I woke up and I could tell that it was helping my kidneys. What it does is it draws out toxins. So your kidneys hurt. You may or may not know this. So forgive me if I'm saying something that you're like, Michelle, we know this. There's people out there, I guarantee, that don't know this. The reason why your kidneys, you know where your kidneys are. Some of you don't. That's okay. It's back here behind your lower back. The reason why your kidneys hurt so bad when you have a virus is because they're working so hard to filter out the virus. Okay, like it's like a filter that's just getting clogged and it gets sore and it gets tired. So if you can get that castor oil on your back, and then the castor oil is also helping to draw those toxins and take some of that pressure off of your kidneys. Okay, so I love the castor oil for that purpose. I'm trying to think of other things that I did Comfort Care wise. I have a throat spray. I have no qualms telling you how to make it at home. Okay, I would love to put it on the store. Lee and I are not quite sure about selling things for internal, so we were talking about it today. Get the highest, let me rephrase this. I get the highest proof vodka I can find, and I put it in a little spray bottle. It's a smaller bottle than this one. This one actually, so this is called mild throat spray because I accidentally one time bought a very, very mild vodka. It doesn't work at all. The highest vodka that you can buy.
So that just sits there doing nothing?
It needs to be recycled. Hyssop. Essential oil.
For cough.
Hyssop essential oil mixed in with the vodka with frankincense. I'm trying to think of what else I put in there. It's been so long since I made it because I just made a ton for everybody. Let me tell you this. I'll tell you how I come up with a lot of this stuff. Just Google the best essential oils for reducing mucus and cough. And then I dump those in with that vodka. And I am telling you, it burns. There's cinnamon. I know there's cinnamon in there. It burns like the dickens, but it literally reduces your cough and helps it. Like, you know how when you get that kind of cough where it's like you can't sleep, it's so annoying because it won't stop? That's when I combine the Ricolas with this, I'm golden.
You used to get the.
I used to get these coughing
people,
fits
when we interview people.
Really, 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 really bad.
So embarrassing.
It was terribly embarrassing. And then, like, I remember we were at the Moment of Truth Summit, and one came on me. I had to go to the bathroom, and my eyes are just dripping. And I'm like, where's my Ricolas? Where's my spray? So, like, I just started taking the spray and the Ricolas with me to interviews because it was just happening all the time. The last time it happened when we were interviewing Charlita Bassett. So,
So now your office says, I had no advance warning whatsoever, full-blown fever and chills, 2 days, slept for hours, no bladder or bowel control, didn't eat for 5 days, and fell repeatedly trying to get up and go. Now, Nana Yaffa, it sounds like you had or have what we had last February. That is hell on earth. That is what put Mom in the hospital. It causes people to pass out. And Rose, we love you, but we think at Kirby, your sister came with this thing. And
I don't think that was on Caroline.
no, because that's the timeline. I've traced it all back. She came with the thing, and she passed out and hit her head twice at Rose's house.
I thought it was. I'm muted. I thought it was the kid at the revival.
No, that got me sick with a little cold.
Okay.
But then I was on the tail end of that sickness, and my immune system was up because I had a lingering cough at Kirby's thing of life. Well, and right after that, we didn't know was going around. Caroline came off of the airplane, and she was there to help Rose. Here's the thing: nobody's at fault.
No,
but we have to explain.
Yes, there are people at fault.
Yes,
higher up.
But we have to explain to what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. So Caroline, Rose's sister, came, and she was upstairs in the bathroom. She said, and she fell and hit her head on the sink or something, and she just like passed out. And this happened to her a couple times, and so there's this weird tell of this specific virus that causes people not to just like all of a sudden you just pass out or you fall. Yeah. And that was happening. Your equilibrium is off and you just feel like you're dying. And she said that, she felt like she was dying. And so at that time, that particular thing was going around Dayton because Neil got it at the same time too. Yeah. So Dayton, Ohio got blasted with that, what you've got, Nana. It's awful, and I will pray for you, and I don't even know what to tell you. So, because we hit everything, but what I tell you what we didn't do, the only thing we didn't do at that time was the nasal swabbing with the iodine.
I think, and that's key. So I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything in my list, so I'm just going to go over this quickly. We are diffusing Thieves essential oil blend in 2 layers of our house 24 hours a day right now to make sure that nobody else gets sick. I talked about the oregano. Okay. And thank you, Shauna. You reminded me this is in my list, but I forgot to mention it. Bone broth with lots of salt and lots of garlic.
What we didn't understand, and then off of this, something that you can do. One thing we did not do, okay, if I had to add anything to my arsenal now, is the liquid IV.
And that's what I was getting ready to read that next. So Dr. Artis, the timing of this is uncanny. The day before I get sick,
right,
we premiere Dr. Artis's interview on the Outliers. If you guys didn't see it, please go and watch it. And he, again, emphasizes the necessity for saline and salt in your system when you're sick. Because he says, no matter if you have a hangnail, you go to the hospital, what do? They immediately hook you up to an IV of fluids. That's what they call it, because they can't talk about sodium anymore because they say that's bad for you, even though it's the same thing. They're just calling it fluids. And he says immediately you start to feel better. Now, it's not just sodium that's in there, though. There's potassium and there's chloride. And so these are, again, essential things that you need when you are sick, but we're brainwashed into thinking that salt is bad for you.
So what almost killed my mom
was low sodium.
Was her sodium levels dropped dangerously low because, and even though we had 2 IV drips come in, it was too little too late.
And
So
you have to be careful. You can't raise that too fast.
You can't, your body will balance things out yourself pretty much with eating salt and drinking things. So if you can get your hands on electrolytes more than just Gatorade, like when people say if you're sick, drink Gatorade.
Yeah.
I never really understood it until now. But the difference is the product with the liquid IV is, think about the IV treatments we had Mom come and take were like $120 to come out and
I want you
do.
guys to get over
Okay.
that hurdle of there are places around you that can come and will give you IV fluids. And if you need them, spend the money and do it. It's not that expensive.
Right.
Specifically, if you're having nutritional deficiencies in life, like
Right.
there's a whole
But-
host of
well,
things that you can do this for.
if you can get up and go, it's way cheaper if you go yourself.
Okay, or go.
You
in.
can go
Yeah.
in yourself. But there's something about the liquid IV that makes it different. The liquid IV has something in it. There's immune support one with vitamin C.
So what are we talking about when we
It's
say
got-
liquid IV? It is a
It's a
drink
product.
powder
Yeah.
that you add to your drinks, you add to water, excuse me, that is high in sodium.
It's the highest one that is 1,000 milligrams per serving.
of sodium. So it does taste salty.
Okay.
When you're drinking
you can
it.
also use LMNT.
Like the letters.
LMNT. That's what one of the doctors recommended. If you're sick, $25 for whatever, for however many, liquid IVs. It sounds expensive. I know a lot of these things sound expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than going to the hospital. It's a lot cheaper than getting an IV drip. And so you can drink 2 or 3 of these a day especially if you have somebody with diarrhea. If you have somebody who's throwing up, right?
Because it's a hydration multiplier is what it sells itself as.
Right.
So if you have somebody that's having problems getting bulk liquids in, you do the liquid IV because it's multiplying that hydration because it's allowing the body to retain it, right? Now, some people are like, oh, if I eat too much salt, I just start to swell up and all this, that, and the other. Guys, these are essential building blocks. If you were to go to the hospital, they are going to pump you full of 10 times this into your system. So having the liquid IV, all of this stuff, having it on hand at the time. Now, okay, wait, we missed a couple of steps here. A couple of things that we forgot to tell everybody that we did, because this is also important. Comfort care, comfort care, comfort care. This is big. Steroids. So sometimes you get to the place where it's just like, I just need help. I'm feeling really bad. And so you can get them via prescription from my go-to doc. There are other places that you can get them as well. Someone had just asked me, can we tell them to buy Dash Pharma? Leah says go to the blog and get it there. Let's not tell it here on the air. But there are other places that you can get it that may or may not come from other countries. And it may or may not be cheaper. So that's big. We also had on hand, and I don't know, Leah, how comfortable you are with me saying this, but I mean, we get this stuff we get it, and we were taking it, fluvoxamine.
Well, yeah, so fluvoxamine is a hit or miss. So
I
it
think it
works
might have
for
helped this
COVID
time.
if it's a COVID. If it's not COVID, it just makes you feel a little better, but it doesn't doesn't do anything.
Right.
So we did do that. We had the fluvoxamine on hand because that's one of Dr. Hyder's. He doesn't really do that one as much, but it was a big deal. We had Dr. Steve Kirsch on. He was big fluvoxamine for a long time. So we have a ton of it on hand. So we're ready to use it.
So we're talking about what we did, and this is, again, like Leah was a little bit, do I write a whole new article? Because what we're talking about is with what's going around right now. But there are other things in our arsenal that we didn't have to use this time. Okay, antibiotics. We have them, we use them. I'm against them because I don't like the way it messes up my gut bacteria, but I've reached the place because of all the fermented vegetables that we eat that I can replenish that back pretty quickly. I'm not as scared of it as I used to be. And so we will use antibiotics properly in certain situations, depending.
Azithromycin and doxycycline are actually also anti-inflammatory.
Right, exactly. So a lot of these things are causing an inflammation response like the Delta that we had. It was a huge inflammation response that stayed in my system forever, which looking back on it now, what I had to do for long COVID, I think that the nicotine would have helped to pull
that staying on like a prednisone or a dexamethasone and then slowly coming down.
The problem is with steroids is you can get hooked on them and they can make you gain a bunch of weight. And you have to be really careful with
you
steroids.
do have to be careful with those. But like, you know, when we were dealing with Delta, we didn't know what we were dealing with.
Right. So I just want you guys to know that there are other things that we have used that still stay in our arsenal that we have on hand that we didn't have to access right now. And so to me, I find so much comfort. I know you guys feel like you're scrambling. I feel good because Leah has taken care of us, because Leah has done all the research, because Leah has bought all the things. I got the bill, but you went and it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, right? On just like at a time, I mean, we spent thousands. So it can seem very daunting, but so that's why we wanted to break it down to the cheapest and the easiest things that you can do. Liquid IV for hydration, gargle with mouthwash, clean out your nasal cavities, right? Get your comfort care type stuff, a nasal decongestant, a Ricola. Please try to get Ivor on hand. I think that is across the board. Is one time it didn't work, but I've used it for other things. Like I use it preventatively to not get sick. And I know it has helped me. I have been around sick people where I'm like, I should have gotten sick and I didn't because I know that I was taking that. So I think that that's it. I know we had a lot more, but there was, I did take some, speaking of which, let's do this.
Took some oregano.
I took some oregano. I went to our arsenal, and in my arsenal, the day that I knew that I was getting sick, I grabbed the CBD tincture. So I'm just telling you what I did.
You also did the
my throat was killing me, and what else did I do?
Her Elite Elixir.
And I did her Elite Elixir. So right now, they are running a sale, and I don't even think it needs a promo code, of up to 30% off. So the CBD tinctures are 25% off and everything else is 30% off.
So the packages never go on sale.
And the packages never go on sale. So that's her end of the year sale. So, excuse me, the CBD is 30% off and the skincare is 25% off plus free shipping. So I want you to go to the Extreme Terpenes. This is the one that I'm highly recommending for everybody, which is the CBD oil 3,000 milligram anytime. We were previously getting the 15. We were previously getting the 1,500, but if you just cut the 3,000 in half.
The 3,000 in half.
So that's what I purchase when I'm doing that. Now let's go to the immune support. Here we go. The Elite Elixir tastes terrible.
Mm-hmm. And it's so expensive, but it's like
disgusting.
Really worth it.
I don't know that this is on sale right now, unfortunately, but it is so worth it. Mm-hmm. So she has in there, I'm pretty sure, the elderberry, but the oregano is what I think really knocks a lot of this stuff off out of you. So there, oh my gosh, there's so much in there, like literally so much in there. So I did take the Elite Elixir. So I want you guys to know that there are, easy to just purchase stuff. So I went and did the organic CBD tincture, and I did that 2 days in a row with the 3,000 milligrams. So I did that because my throat was hurting and I wanted to help my throat.
Now, and I think I'm just going to sum it up here. I don't know who I was talking to, but I never got sick as a kid. I remember one time I got some sort of stomach flu right before third grade. So, and then I had to take soup into school and I couldn't keep any food down. I never got a cold. I would get car sick, but I never got a cold. I never got a flu. I never blew my nose. I never coughed. I never had a thing. I never, ever, and I went around a lot of people. I was always around in sports. I was always in school.
I was sick a lot.
I was never sick. I never had a sick day. I only had my stomach hurt all the time, but that was because I was dealing with stuff. I moved here. I got a couple sinus infections and had to deal with those. And then one time Michelle and I got food poisoning from a bad berry. And then one time we got sick, actually, I think from the flu shot. Actually, taking that we did a flu shot study. But honestly, I don't like. It wasn't until 2020 where I was like, "Dang, I'm sick." And then 2021, got sick in 2021, and then in 2022, I got sick twice. And didn't get sick at all in 2023. And then this year, this is the third time I've been sick. And so, and I don't go around a lot of people. I don't go many places. Okay? And so if you guys are tagging Becky, like, hey, you guys want to do another revival? I'm like, well, gun shy right now. People are germ spreaders. But whatever is going on in this world has weakened I'm not going to say it's weakened our immune system. They have done something to us. I don't know if they're releasing stuff, this COVID nonsense, the jab. I believe the push, I believe this my 100%. I believe that the jabs are super spreaders. And they keep telling you to get these jabs so that you'll keep yourself from getting sick. All it's doing is making you and everybody else sick.
So you'll notice that.
Can I finish my thought?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Because Mom and I went to pulmonary therapy exercise. And there was a lady there. And she had been out for like a month. Where was she? She's in the hospital twice. She had to go to a special hospital. Why? Because she got the flu, a really, really, really bad flu. The day she got a flu shot, the day of, her arms swelled up and she got the flu. Now her doctor was like, well, maybe you picked it up in the office.
They know better. They're lying.
The very day she gets the flu shot, her arm swells up. She gets a deadly flu. Okay? Her husband gets it too. Then I'm sure what's happening is she's a vector for everybody around her. And so everybody since COVID is so afraid now that they're all out there. Many people are out there getting jab after jab. And they're like, well, maybe I'll get the pneumonia one, or maybe I'll get the flu one. Maybe I just want to protect myself. The problem is you're becoming a walking vector. And everything is mutating. I have never in my entire life, I have some friends who get, Catherine and her mom, they get sick all the time. They get sick, they get over it. They get sick, they get over it. She's a teacher. They get sick, they get over it. Have for years. I'm used to it with her. I'm not used to this. Everybody is always sick. Everybody in the entire country is getting the same thing at the same time. Everybody around the world is getting the same thing at the same time. Why is that? Because they are jabbing everybody around the world with the same thing, starting these little vector points all around the globe. And so that, if you want to know why, so we're up against bioweapons. That's
what I wanted to get to in my message to our friend. Because she ended her message by saying, just remember that God created your immune system. And I'm like, 100%. Yes. Like God created our immune system to be like incredible. But I responded, I said, but I don't think that God designed our immune system to have to combat them.
Weapons of war.
What exactly? Like that's not an immune system response.
Nobody says like, I'm going to shoot you with a gun 5 times, but my immune system's going to kick out the bullet.
Yeah.
No, these are not normal.
But nobody
these
thinks your
natural.
immune system when they think of Ebola.
Right.
Like you don't think my immune system's going to take care of Ebola. Like you don't think that.
Or West Nile virus.
Or something like that. Right. Like, so I think you guys, we have to put things into perspective because I hear it a lot. And there's so many people because you want to reduce the power that they have.
Yeah.
Admirable. Love it. Okay. They dismiss it. Oh, I'm fine. My immune system. And that's to combat needing to get the JAB. Mm-hmm. I even have to spell the word that I'm using to not say the VAX. However, that that sounds fine, but what you're doing is you're diminishing the fact that it's not just the JAB that's the problem. It's what they're putting out into the system. Now, I have been convinced since 2020, this was a red pill moment for me. I was like, wait a minute. All colds and viruses are built in these labs.
Yeah.
Like every flu season comes around.
And then they start jabbing people with flu
And then
shots.
they start jabbing people with the flu shots, and then everybody starts getting sick.
Yep.
And they're like, it's just winter. I'm like, wait. Winter isn't deadly.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with cold weather.
Right.
Cold weather does not make you sick.
And then everybody was getting sick over the summer.
And so I'm just saying, like, this idea is like, oh, it's cold. You know, here's the deal. The premise behind that is you don't want to have wet hair and you don't want to go out in the cold without being bundled up because it weakens your immune system. But cold in of itself is not a danger. You'll catch your death of cold if you go out without a coat. That's ridiculous. Okay. And so they are telling us that before, and you know what I find so fascinating about this? Is that they say that it's just winter, but people start getting these things in like September.
I know, but they have.
It's not cold yet. So don't tell me it's a winter cycle virus. They're not cicadas, okay? Because I'm about to go on a rant here. Cold and flu viruses are not cicadas that emerge from the ground at a certain time of year. However, around September, they start telling everybody to come on in and you go and visit your doctor, and they're getting everybody jabbed with the flu jab. And then all of a sudden, everybody starts getting sick. And all of a sudden, Big Pharma starts making lots of money on tissues and NyQuil and
Afrin and nasal sprays.
Afrin. And it's like amazing how much money they make on this industry. And doctors get big boons in patients. Like, it's like tax season. Shauna just mentioned tax. It's like tax seasons for doctors. You know, it's winter. I'm going to start getting to see all the sick people, and they start coming in. Because truly, how often would you need to see your doctor if you didn't get colds and flus?
Right.
They were running out of patients. Okay. So I'm just saying, I have been convinced that for a very long time now, these types of things are fact. That's what I'm going to say. I don't trust it. I don't believe in any of this stuff. So let me read some comments here. Aunt Gail says, Redmond salt every day helped me with my leg cramps. Shauna says, we take the oil of oregano. The Tdap made me very sick. Never again. Donna Bolivy says, real flu comes about every decade with high solar activity. It's an interesting take there. Cepacol, says Loretta. We've never done Cepacol, but I know other people have. They swear by it. Let me head over here to YouTube. All of this is starting to make me feel ill, which I'm not, says Stuart the Brit. I'm sorry about that. Miss Wireland says, I tried the 4 gum this morning. It made me dizzy. So you mean the 4 milligram of the nicotine? Dr. Artis does not recommend the 4 milligram. I do not recommend the 4 milligram. I would do a 2 milligram, and it still can make you dizzy. So just be careful with that. You could also cut it in half and take half. Leah and Patriot Gallery say that, and I think this is probably true, the patch does not make you dizzy. I wore it. It never made me dizzy. But I chewed the gum before and it didn't make me dizzy before. So I don't know why it's been making me dizzy this time around, but probably because I was sick at the same time. But I definitely am sold on Dr. Artis's assessment of what the nicotine does. So go and watch our episode with him from the Outliers on Monday, and he will break it down. I had lost my sense of taste and smell for like 2 years, a year and a half after I had COVID. And it was because Dr. Artis was literally like, Michelle, you need to do the gum. And I'm like, yeah, but I got smokers in the family and I don't, I was really afraid of the nicotine thing. Nicotine in and of itself is actually really good for you. It's in a lot of plants. It's in fruits. It's in a lot of things that we take naturally. And so what happens is if your nicotine receptors are full with nicotine, then they aren't receiving the spike protein, which is, as Dr. Artis talks about, viral. This whole video is going to get taken off of YouTube, I can guarantee you. So I think that is, and so I have a lot of people that are saying, we'll pray for you. We'll pray for you. And I do not want to diminish the power of prayer. So I know most of you guys prayed for me when you found out that I was sick. So thank you, thank you, thank you. The power of prayer is very, very effective. Like, I'm not going to ever say that it's not, because it is. I do want to put a caveat on that though. Like, please don't just rely on the power of prayer. Okay. Like, and I know that sounds crazy for us to be saying on our show, but God has given us these answers, and he wants us to use them. Okay. To combat these things. Rachel says, I haven't seen a doctor since 2019. Good for you. That's awesome. Praise God. Like, that is, if you can do that. The only time I had to see a doctor was a teledoc. And that was with the long COVID, and she was able to prescribe for me the things that I needed. And she was a naturopath, so that was really nice. But other than that, Leah and I don't have a doctor. We never go and see a doctor. God takes care of us, and Leah does all the research. So Chris says, good evening, everyone. I will have to catch up on the beginning of the show later. Nicotine has helped me a lot too. So we have to get over these hurdles in our minds, this stigma, because I'll be honest, I'm standing in the aisle to buy the nicotine gum, and I'm like conscious. I wasn't conscientious, but I was conscious of the fact that people might think that I'm trying to quit smoking. And because why else would you buy nicotine gum? Well, or patches or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, we need to change that. We need to make it known that it helps. Like Dr. Artis says that he wears his patch all day, every day, and will for the rest of his life. Like, I'm like, okay, well, all right. Patriot Galley says, don't beat a dead horse. Please go to Rumble and watch this show. Dr. Artis explains everything. Chris says, I also take NAC, ashwagandha, serapeptase, and other things to break down bad proteins the nicotine releases, then bind it up for elimination with apple pectin. Awesome. Amen. Me too. All right. So let's move on to our next story. And one more thing. I didn't emphasize the bone broth enough. I couldn't get any food down. And did you bring me a tea?
Yeah.
That's nice of you.
I was supposed to do a Christmas special. Okay.
And so, first we're going to say goodbye to Facebook.
No, we can talk about Santa Claus a little bit first, and then we can say goodbye. Okay, So I went to Jungle Gyms with Mom, and I was like, I want to buy some tea. So I went in the UK section, and there were a bunch of teas, and they were kind of expensive. They were like $5.79.
Okay.
It was like, I'm going to splurge. Okay. And I'm going to get one of these teas. Okay. And I picked up this tea, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally going to get this tea. It's Darville's of Windsor. It's Queen Elizabeth's, by appointment of H.M. Queen Elizabeth II.
Wow.
Okay. I wanted to show you guys this. It's really fancy tea. It's even got it's their Christmas tea. It's an irresistible blend of fine black teas flavored with warming winter spices, orange and cinnamon, creating a truly festive experience. Now, these tea bags are intense, and I left them in there too long, so it's probably not what you're supposed to be tasting. But when I went to actually get it, it was $10. But I said to myself, I'm getting it for the show because this came all the way from the UK, and there's 50 big bags in there. The Queen approved tea. What do you think?
So
overbrewed.
It's
intense.
No, it's good. I like it. I'm not getting a lot of those other overtones. I also have a Ricola in my mouth. And Michelle also likes her tea sweet.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. See, I just drink it with no sugar.
Right.
I handed her sugarless tea.
I will drink it though. It's good. It tastes good going down.
How did St. Nicholas turn into Santa Claus? St. Nicholas is the most renowned saint in Greek Orthodox tradition. He was the bishop of Myrna in the 4th century Asia Minor, imprisoned by the Romans, preached against immorality and exposure of infants, I guess the killing of infants, defended the Trinity, confronting corrupt politicians, and was generous to the poor. But how did St. Nick turn into Santa Claus? Well, let's go to William Federer. He's going to tell the story better than I can. Michelle, will you bring up the 5-minute William Federer here?
Sure. I want to read this. I hope Becky doesn't mind. She wants to know, where do you buy your Ivor? We need it for a family member.
If you need it now, you got to go to my go-to doc.
So she says, I'm not sure if Dr. Hyder or any other doc will prescribe for what they want it for, which is a cancer treatment. And they don't know the dosage. I don't know what the dosage would be for a cancer treatment. But we can talk about that. But I did send you the link
another time. But there's that, and then there's fenbenzol, and there's a couple different ones that people use. There are specialty groups for that. I haven't really dove in too far, but I can tell you where to get a good amount of it.
So we have that on the website on our bug articles, both of them. What to do. So go to resistancechicks.com go to resistancechicks.com and type in the search bar bug. Both of those articles will come up, and the link to get
in this one I want to go.
Hang on, Bill. The link to get the Ivor will be in that article. But I sent it what are you doing? Becky, I sent it directly to you. Control V. There we go. All right, so wait 1 second here. I'm just trying to get this opened up in the proper window. And I will be monitoring the chat in case we lose audio again. That was so crazy. I'm sorry about that. Hate when that happens. I try to monitor the chat always. And some of you even texted me. You guys are amazing. Okay, here we go.
In this one, I want to go through how St. Nicholas turned into Santa Claus. Now, there's some holidays you cannot redeem, like Halloween. It's like pagan from the core. But this one, there's some really good stuff. So the church was born into a one-world anti-Christian government, the Roman Empire. And the Christianity spread. Red is the Roman Empire, and then you got the white is Christianity, and they're risking their lives, they're spreading Christianity, and it eventually takes over the whole known world there at the time, and then spreads to Japan and sort of Syria and all around. Anyway, did you know Syria was the first country to completely be Christian? It was evangelized by the Apostle Paul. The name Christian was first used in Syria. But here we have Roman governor Pliny the Younger writing to Emperor Trajan 111 AD. I asked them if they are Christians. If they admit it, I repeat the question, threatening capital punishment. If they persist, I sentence them to death. And there's Emperor Trajan. If anyone denies he's a Christian and actually proves it by worshiping our gods, he shall be pardoned as a result of his recantation. 260 AD, you have a Roman Emperor Galerius. And he temporarily suspends persecution, and now Christianity is really spreading, and it starts a persecution of churches. They're arresting pastors. Could you imagine the government arresting pastors? And the government closed down churches. Could you imagine the government closing down churches? And during this time is when Nicholas was born. And so he was born in a town called Patara, Asia Minor. Today, that's Turkey. And a movement was sweeping through Christianity called monasticism. And goes to monasteries. It was the beginning of that. And so it was, if you really became a Christian, you should follow what Jesus told the rich young ruler. If thou would be perfect, go and sell all that thou hast, give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, come and follow me. So people would become Christian, and they'd give away all their money. And so the story is that Nicholas decided to give away his money. But he didn't want to get the credit for it. And so he decided to give away the money at nighttime, anonymously, and throw it in the window of poor people. So one story was that a merchant in the town of Patara had gone bankrupt. Creditors were going to come and take not only his house, but his children. And the father knew that would be terrible. He had 3 daughters, so he had an idea. If he could hurry up and marry his daughters off before the creditors come, they couldn't take their daughter because they wouldn't be his anymore. Unfortunately, he did not have money for a dowry, which was needed in that area of the world for a legally recognized wedding. Nicholas hears the problem and late one night throws some money in the window, and you can see him on his tippy toes there, right to the left, and he's throwing money in. It provides the dowry. The oldest daughter gets married. And then you see this artwork, and there he is, Nicholas throwing money in the window, and then he throws it in for the second daughter, and she gets married. And now the dad's expecting him to show up, and he's waiting up. And so he throws the money in for the third daughter to have a dowry to get married, and the father runs outside and catches him. And Nicholas makes the father promise not to tell where the money came from, because he wanted the glory to go to God and not to him. And so this is the origin of the tradition of secret gift giving on the anniversary of Nicholas's death, which was December 6th of 343 AD. And so here's a stained glass window. It's got Nicholas throwing the money in. Underneath, it's got the 3 daughters, and it says he provides a dowry for 3 girls. So this is like the story the Greeks had passed down. So you'll often see Nicholas pictured in artwork with 3 gold balls, symbolizing the 3 bags of gold he threw in the window of his family. Anyway, so Nicholas gives away all his money. He decides he's going to go to Jerusalem to a monastery called Zion, and he's going to take these vows of silence, and you'll never see him again. He even visits Bethlehem and visits the Church of the Nativity.
Pause. Wicked Psych says he is selling his daughter. No, so a actually kind of. A dowry is took for granted that everybody knows what a dowry is. A dowry is something that a father was supposed to give to a future husband.
A woman would come with a dowry, like you would come with
like your inheritance
goats
or something,
cows, or $10,000 to help start your marriage.
So in some cultures, the groom has to pay the father, for the bride. In other cultures, the father has to pay the groom to take the daughter. So it just depends on the culture.
Where Jesus was really born. So Santa Claus was there where Jesus was born in Bethlehem. He visited there. So right before he takes his vows, somehow the Lord tells him not to hide his light under a bushel. And he decides, okay, I'm going to be a light to the world. And he goes back to Asia Minor, and he gets off at a town called Myra, M-Y-R-A. It's a port city. Still, the ruins of it are still there today. And unbeknownst to him, the bishop had died. And the church leaders could not decide who the next bishop was going to be. And so they're praying, and one old leader has a dream that the first person to church the next day would be named Nicholas, and he was to be their next pastor. So Nicholas is the first one to church, and they ask his name. When he says Nicholas, they say, follow us. They go in the back room, and they said, you're supposed to be the bishop. He was not too thrilled because the Roman Emperor Diocletian was arresting bishops and killing them. And so he finally agrees. He's arrested. He's put in jail. And sure enough, Roman Emperor Diocletian is killing these bishops. But suddenly, Diocletian is struck with an intestinal disease.
So that is the kind of the basis of the story. In the 5th century, a church was named for him in the city of Myra, modern-day Demre, Turkey. When it was damaged in an earthquake in 529 AD, Emperor Justinian rebuilt it. In 988 AD, Vladimir the Great of Russia converted to Eastern Orthodox Christianity and adopted Nicholas as the patron saint of Russia. In the 11th century, Islamist Seljuk Turks invaded Asia Minor, killing Christians. All 7 churches mentioned in the book Revelation were destroyed. Graves were decorated. Islamic Hadith Sahih Muslim, Book 4, number 2115 stated, do not leave an image without obliterating it or a high grave without leveling it. There was concern that the grave of St. Nicholas would be desecrated, as years earlier, in 846 AD, 10,000 Muslim Saracens sailed up the Tiber River and sacked Rome, desecrating the remains of St. Peter and St. Paul. Pope Leo IV responded by rebuilding a 39-foot wall around the Vatican. In a panic, Christians in Myra, Asia Minor, shipped the remains of St. Nicholas in 1087 to the southeast coast of Italy, to the town of Bari. Pope Urban II dedicated the church, naming it after St. Nicholas. The Basilica de San Nicola de Bari this officially introduced the Greek St. Nicholas to Western Europe. Turks intensified their invasion, causing so many Greek Christians to flee that Pope Urban II went to the Council of Clermont in 1095 and begged European monarchs to send help. They sent help. It was called the First Crusade. In a backward sense, Western Europe might not have had St. Nicholas traditions if it had not been for the Islamists invading Eastern Europe.
Wow.
Once St. Nicholas's remains were in Italy, Western Europeans quickly embraced the gift-giving traditions associated with him. By 1223, so much attention was given to gift-giving during Christmas season that pious St. Francis of Assisi, sort of in protest, created the first crèche, or nativity scene, with Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus. He wanted to get back to the real reason for the season, Jesus, the Son of God, born in a manger. As Isaiah foretold, therefore, the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Emmanuel means God with us. In 1517, as we talked about before, Martin Luther began the Reformation. By this time, there was a saint's day for every day of the year. Churches were filled with saint statues, side altars, relics, elaborate sepulchres. Luther considered saint days a distraction from Christ, so he effectively ended them in Protestant countries, including the popular December 6th St. Nicholas Day. Since Germans liked the gift giving so much, Martin Luther moved the giving to December 25th to emphasize that all gifts come from the Christ child. That's why almost all, it's so cool because like we did a whole big thing on like we owe so much to Germany for like Christmas and to Martin Luther, which Catholics really hate, but they don't know that like, guys, we're all one because Catholics love Christmas and you really get Christmas because of Martin Luther. And I know a lot of Catholics would like, they'd almost like stop celebrating Christmas. They'd come up with some other reason why.
So does Bill get into what we read from The Blaze at all? Because I know that when we do those off videos, sometimes our main viewers don't see them, so they may not know.
I think
that.
In another article it does.
No, I mean, are we going to give it tonight at all?
Yeah, another article, yeah. The German pronunciation, we're talking about Santa Claus right now.
Okay.
The German pronunciation of Christ child was Chris Kringle, which over the centuries became Chris Kringle. Chris Kindle, which became Chris Kringle. England had a different story. Henry VIII brought the Reformation, but not because he had a spiritual experience like Martin Luther. He just wanted another wife, and he went on to have 6 wives. Henry got rid of most saint days, including the popular December 6th St. Nicholas Day, but instead of focusing back on the Christ child as Luther did, he brought back the trappings of a Roman holiday, Saturnalia. Britain used to be a Roman colony since Julius Caesar invaded in 55 BC. Saturn was the Roman god of feasting, plenty, and merriment. If you remember The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, the ghost of Christmas present is depicted as a big guy with robes, a wreath on his head, and a goblet of wine. Looking at him, you're asking yourself, who is this guy? He looks a lot like Santa, but he also looks like a Roman god. Well, that was Saturn, but they Christianized him and called him Father Christmas. They couldn't call him St. Nicholas because he was outlawed by England's Reformation. During Henry VIII's reign, Christmas in England became a party time like Mardi Gras. People forget that Mardi Gras originally was a religious day. It was a day before Lent when people fasted 40 days before Easter to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. But over time, Mardi Gras became a lewd party in New Orleans. Henry VIII's Greenwich Palace Christmas party even had a Lord of Misrule similar to Mardi Gras. During the Tudor dynasty, Christmas in the 16th century London was banquets, feasting, drinking, dancing, games, dicing, court jesting, pranks, throwing food, mock executions, illicit mirth, disorderly laughter, boy bishops, costumes, masks, cross-dressing, bear baiting, wassailing, drinking spiced ale from house to house, and throwing some on apple trees as luck for a good harvest. Shakespeare's play, Twelfth Night, featured a carnivalist drunken revelry based on the ancient Roman festival of Saturnalia. Puritans viewed Christmas as becoming too worldly. Puritan leader Reverend Cotton Mather told his congregation in 1712, "Can you in your conscience think that our Holy Savior is honored by mad mirth, by long eating, by hard drinking, by lewd gaming, by rude reveling, by a mass fit for none but a Saturn or a Bacchus or a night of Mahometan Ramadan? You cannot possibly think so. A multitude of the heavenly host was heard praising God. But shall it be said that at the birth of our Savior, for which we owe as high praises to God as they can do, we take the time to praise the hellish legions and do actions that have much more of hell than of heaven in them?" Puritans considered theaters dens of iniquity, so they forbade Shakespeare from mentioning God in his plays, considering it taking God's name in vain and casting pearls before swine. So he began writing plays with mythical Greek gods and fates, such as Midsummer's Night Dream. Puritans took over England in 1642 and forced Shakespeare's Globe Theatre to close, and then in 1644 pulled it down. Puritan passed an ordinance in December 1643. "Sins of our forefathers have turned this feast of Christ into an extreme forgetfulness of him by giving liberty to carnal and sensual delights." In 1647, Puritans in England outlawed Christmas. When Pilgrims first disembarked the Mayflower, the shipmaster Christopher Jones wrote in his blog, December 25th, 1620, "At anchor in Plymouth Harbor, Christmas Day, but not observed by these colonists, they being opposed to All Saints' Days. A large part went ashore this morning and felled timber began building. They began to erect the first house about 20 feet square for their common use to receive them and their goods. A year later, at the end of 1621, Governor William Bradford recorded in a Plymouth plantation of another boatload arriving with more settlers. Herewith I shall end this year, except to recall one more incident, rather amusing than serious. On Christmas Day, the governor called the people out to work as usual, but most of the new company excused themselves and said it went against their consciences to work on that day. So the governor told them if they made it a matter of conscience, he would spare them till they were better informed. Bradford continues, so he went with the rest and left them, but on returning from work at noon, he found them at play in the street. Some pitching the bar, some at stool ball, and some like sports. So he went with them and took away their games and told them that it was against his conscience that they should play and others work. If they made the keeping of the day a matter of devotion, let them remain in their houses. But there should be no gaming and reveling in the streets. In 1659, when the Puritans were settling Massachusetts, they instituted a 5-shilling fine for anyone caught celebrating Christmas. Whosoever shall be found observing any such day as Christmas and the like, either by forbearing labor, feasting, that's kind of funny. Don't eat too much on a certain day. Every person shall pay a fine of 5 shillings. Where Pilgrims, Puritans, and most Presbyterians did not celebrate Christmas, other immigrants did celebrate Christmas, such as Germans, French, Swedes, English, Welsh, and especially the Dutch. Similar to the Catholics saying that St. Peter is at the gates of heaven, the Dutch developed a tradition based from the prophecy that Jesus will return at the end of the world to judge the living and the dead, riding on a white horse, and the saints will return with him riding white horses. And that's from Revelation. The reasoning went that since St. Nicholas was a saint, he would certainly be one of the multitude riding white horses returning with Jesus. But since St. Nicholas was such a special saint, the Dutch had him coming back once a year for a mini judgment day to check up on the children to see if they were on the right track before the real judgment day. Wow, there's a lot of scriptures. And then it says, over the centuries, this story evolved. The book of works and the Lamb's book of life turned into the book of naughty and nice. The angels turned into elves. Saints came from heaven, the New Jerusalem, the celestial city, which turned into the North Pole. The North Pole is not far from Finnish Lapland near the Arctic Circle in the northern Scandinavian peninsula. Since there were few horses there, St. Nicholas rode reindeer, which became a riding sleigh. Lapland's capital and the small city of Rovaniemi, which claims the title of official Santa Claus village. Nazis destroyed Rovaniemi, all those Nazis, in World War II, but Eleanor Roosevelt helped rebuild it, visiting there in 1950. The Dutch holiday tradition is that St. Nicholas comes once a year to give presents to good children, but the naughty children had something else to look forward to. St. Nicholas was accompanied by a Moorish costume helper, Zwart Piet, who would put naughty children into gunny sacks and take them back to Spain where they would be sold to Muslim slavery. Many forget that Spain was controlled by unmade Muslim invaders for 700 years, and they sold an estimated 1 million Europeans into slavery. Muslims also enslaved an estimated 180 million Africans, selling them to the slave markets in Timbuktu and Zanzibar. In Europe, there were Catholic orders such as the Trinitarians and the Mercedarians who collected donations at churches to ransom Christian slaves. Today, leaders like Eric Metaxas are helping Christian Solidarity International raise money to ransom Christians out of slavery in Sudan. In Holland, so dreadful was the anticipation of St. Nicholas' visit that children would start crying. According to the anecdotal accounts, in one town, the night before his visit, Dutch boys would go to sleep with their pocket knives in their pockets in case they woke up and had to cut themselves out of Zwart Piet's gunny sack. Beginning in 1624, Dutch immigrants brought St. Nicholas traditions to New Amsterdam, which became New York in 1664. Dutch called St. Nicholas, St. Nicolaas, or Sinterklaas, became pronounced Santa Claus. Santa Claus is simply the Dutch pronunciation of St. Nicholas. In New York, Washington Irving, considered the father of American literature, wrote Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle. He coined the name Gotham for New York City. Irving was also a founding member of the St. Nicholas Society of the City of New York in 1835 to celebrate the city's heritage. In 1809, Irving wrote Diedrich Knickerbocker's A History of New York. In it, he described St. Nicholas visiting once a year, but no longer wearing a bishop's outfit, but a typical Dutch outfit, a long trunk hose, leather belt, boots, and a hat and a pipe. A goodly image of St. Nicholas, equipped with a low, broad-brimmed hat, a huge pair of Flemish trunk hose, and a pipe. The good St. Nicholas, who had appeared to him in a dream the night before, and whom he had known by his broad hat and long pipe. Washington Irving further wrote, so we are told in the Sliven days, New Amsterdam, the good St. Nicholas would often make his appearances in his beloved city of a holiday afternoon, riding jolly among the treetops or over the roofs of houses, now and then drawing forth magnificent presents from his breeches pockets and dropping them down the chimneys of his favorites. He never shows us the light of his countenance, nor ever visits us, save one night in the year, when he rattles down the chimneys of the descendants of the patriarchs, confining his presence merely to the children. The good St. Nicholas came riding over the tops of the trees in that self-same wagon wherein he brings his yearly presents to children. And he descended hard, and he lit his pipe by the fire. And when St. Nicholas had smoked his pipe and twisted it in his hatband and laying his finger beside his nose, gave a very significant look, then mounting his wagon and returned over the treetops to disappear. The significant sign of St. Nicholas laying his finger beside his nose and winking hard with one eye. Irving wrote how Dutch settlers continued the tradition of hanging stockings by the fireplace. At this early period was instituted that pious ceremony still religiously observed in all of our ancient families of the right breed of hanging up a stocking in the chimney on St. Nicholas Eve, which stocking is always found in the morning miraculously filled, for the good St. Nicholas has ever been a great giver of gifts, particularly to children. Nor was the day of St. Nicholas suffered to pass by without making presents, hanging the stocking in the chimney, and complying with all the other ceremonies. St. Nicholas is not only the patron saint of Amsterdam, Netherlands, which has the Basilica van de Heilige Nicholas, the Basilica of St. Nicholas. He is also the patron saint of New Amsterdam, which had the St. Nicholas Dutch Reformed Church. Begun in 1628, it was the oldest corporate body in what is now the United States. Irving wrote, finally, that they should not be required to acknowledge that any other saint in the calendar than St. Nicholas, who should thenceforward, as before, be considered the tutelar, the patron, the saint of the city. They built a fair and goodly chapel within the fort, which they consecrated to his name. I am moreover told that this is a little legendary book somewhere extant, that there is one written in Low Dutch, which says that the image of this renowned saint, which graced the bowsprit of the ship, bowsprit of the ship, Goud Vrouw Goodwife, was elevated in front of the chapel, the great church of St. Nicholas. For over 3 centuries, St. Nicholas Collegiate Reformed Protestant Dutch Church was the oldest congregation in Manhattan. It was moved when the British took over the city in 1664. It burned in a fire in 1741, what was rebuilt. In 1866, the cornerstone of the church's new location was laid at 5th Avenue and 48th Street, which was built the most eminent Protestant church in the city, often referred to as the Protestant Cathedral of New York. President Theodore Roosevelt attended there. Financial mismanagement resulted in church elders selling it to the Sinclair Oil Company, which demolished it in 1949 to build an office building. Remaining church members merged with the new marble Collegiate Dutch Reformed Church at 5th Avenue and 29th Street. Motivational speaker Norman Vincent Peale was the pastor. 1933 to 1984, and the Trump family attended there. In New York, there was a Hebrew professor named Clement Moore who taught at the General Theological Seminary of the Protestant Episcopal Church in the Chelsea neighborhood on land donated by the Moore family. Clement Clark Moore is located at the corner of 10th Avenue and 22nd Street. Moore helped the Trinity Church establish a new church on Hudson Street, St. Luke in the Fields. In 1823, Clement Moore wrote a poem for his 6 children titled A Visit from St. Nicholas.
And then we all know it
was the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas would soon be there. When what in my wondering eye should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. So on the top, when the house topped the courses they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. Clement Moore describes St. Nicholas as smaller. He was chubby and plump, and right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. In 1843, the first lithographic Christmas cards were printed, and Charles Dickens published A Christmas Carol, and the characters of Scrooge and Tiny Tim. During the Civil War, Harper's Weekly magazine had an illustrator named Thomas Nast, famous for creating the Republican elephant and Democratic mule. Nast drew St. Nicholas visiting Union troops with a North Pole sign behind St. Nick as a political jab at the Confederate South. In the early 1900s, Haddon Sundblom was an artist famous for his creation of the Quaker Oaks Man and Aunt Jemima syrup. Racist guy here. In 1930, Coca-Cola hired Sundblom to create, the Coke Santa. And he did it every year for 33 years. Man, that was a marketing. I just remember, raise your hand if you remember Coke Santa. I can't believe I haven't seen him on a Coke this year. I don't know what they're doing. You know Coke Santa.
I know Coke Santa.
You know Coke Santa. Coca-Cola pioneered mass marketing, and my grandma. See, we didn't have a lot of Coke. She had the real deal. She had the Christmas glasses. And the cold cans with the Coke Santa.
Let's finish this.
As a result, I'm trying to be Christmassy. You're trying
I think it's good.
Okay, I'm trying to be memorable
I'm
here.
memorable about it. I'm excited about what's coming next. That's why
And
I said
as
that.
a result, this version of Santa Claus became most recognizable. She doesn't want me reminisce.
No, I wanted to. I literally was going to read it myself,
ahead,
but
go
I'm
ahead.
not sure that I should. If I start coughing. Though much has been added on to the story throughout the centuries, underneath it all, there really was a godly, courageous Christian bishop who lived in the 4th century, Asia Minor, named Nicholas. He was a Christian. He loved Jesus enough to go into ministry. He chose being imprisoned by the Romans rather than deny his Christian faith. He stood for the doctrine of the Trinity. He preached against sexually immoral pagan temples and killing of innocent babies. He confronted corrupt politicians. And, most notably of all, St. Nicholas was very generous, giving away all of his money to help the poor in their time of need, and doing it anonymously, as he wanted the credit to go not to himself, but to God alone.
That's awesome. All right, so why don't you actually go to the longer version here? I don't know if you have this, the history of Christmas. We're going to play a little bit of this from William Federer. This is the same. We played a clip, and now we're going to play a longer clip here of the history. So Christmas for 2,000 years. Christmas has been one of the most celebrated dates. Now, I want you guys to go back if you can, if you want to learn a little more. We read a really interesting article about the Christian history.
Is it this one?
Of Christmas. It's an hour-long one.
Okay.
Well,
when we were walking through doing Christmas lights with my mom on Christmas Day, and somebody commented to Michelle, "Be nicer to your mom," which was hilarious. And Michelle's like, "I felt so sick that day."
So this was just Christmas Day, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I was going to get to celebrate Christmas, much less take a walk with you guys. And then Patriot Gallery wants to go live and show everybody the Christmas lights.
You started feeling good at like 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I did. But I'm just saying, I didn't get any sleep. You know, I'm sick. And then, so yes, I was not as pleasant and patient as I should have been. You said people commented twice.
One person.
You said it was twice.
One, and then the good comments after that.
Okay.
Calm
I was
down.
like, dude, I was sick. I love my
I
mother.
love you, buddy. It's
Thank you.
okay, man. All right. So, anyways, we went through the entire history of like the origins of Christian. Origins of Christmas, and is it pagan? And the more I study Christmas, the more like, no, actually, Christians have been pegging the birth of Jesus to December 25th from about 200 AD. So why not?
Right.
Why not? And we found out that Saturnalia, which was celebrated later, okay, and was created later. So yeah, what happened was they paganized Christmas rather than Christianizing.
So another thing that stood out to me, and please forgive me for not getting this date correct, but the date that they were celebrating the sun. Now they say that the sun was born on December 25th. There's no argument there. But the date that the holiday
on the 25th.
that they celebrated it was something like, it's like December 14th, 15th,
Yeah,
something like that. I don't know what
yeah,
it wasn't. It wasn't December 25th.
Yeah.
So the argument that was made by the Blaze or whoever was authoring this article, it was like a light bulb went off on my head. If it was supposed to be a replacement holiday, you would have just replaced that specific day. You wouldn't do it 10 days later because, as they pointed out, if you're trying to replace Halloween, you're going to do it on Halloween, or else you're going to have people that are going to just celebrate both, because why wouldn't you? So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to do Christmas as trying to overpower that specific celebration, and it happens 10 to 12 days later.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And what really hit me, and I didn't know this, and I'm angry that I didn't know this, wasn't it who was it? Shoot, I'm getting all my names wrong. My brain's on fuzz. But one of the earliest church fathers literally has the birth of Jesus in like the year 200 AD.
Yeah, I just said that.
I know,
yeah.
I'm repeating it again though. As December 25th. And then St. Augustine quotes tradition holds, and St. Augustine is like in like 350 AD. Okay, so like 150 years later, he's saying tradition holds that the birth of Jesus was December 25th. I never heard that about our early church fathers.
Yeah, you guys can go read that. It's 2 days ago from The Blaze. The Truth About Christmas, Debunking the Pagan Origin of Christmas. All right, let's play a little bit here from William Better.
This isn't going to be as short and concise and cut like whoever was cutting those other clips up. I could probably turn William up a little bit on timing if nobody minds. If you don't like it that fast, let me know.
It's Christmas, and I wrote a book called
Nope,
There Really Is a
it's
Santa
too
Claus,
fast.
The History of St.
He
Nicholas and
talks
Christmas
fast.
Holiday
He
Traditions. And
talks fast.
I can only
Hold
give the
on.
talk a
Slow
couple
down.
times a year, and so this is that time. And you know, we just got done with praise and worship, and I see the Christmas lights here. I'm 64, so when I grew up, we spent a lot of time untangling Christmas lights and finding the ones that didn't work. And I found something that it needs to complete the circuit, right? So imagine if you have your plug and you're about to plug your Christmas light in, and one of the prongs is broken. And if you only plug in one prong, do the lights turn on?
No.
No, you have to plug in both prongs. What happens is the electricity comes from the power plant, through the high power wires, through the local, into your house, into that outlet, and then it goes through but unless it goes back, it doesn't turn on.
Right.
And it actually, with alternating current, it goes back and forth like 60 times a second. So you're constantly giving, but you constantly have to give back. God has given you life.
Wow.
But unless you give it back to him in worship, your light doesn't turn on.
Wow.
It's when you worship the Lord and you let the love and the life that he's given to you, you give it back to him. You feel the power of the Spirit of the Lord flowing through you, right? You know what I'm talking
Billy,
about?
you're amazing.
That's why it's so important to do praise and worship. And anyway, I
Love
just
that.
thought I'd throw that little analogy in there. So whenever you see Christmas lights, you got to plug in both sides. You have to give the worship back to God.
Amen.
Well, let's go through some scriptures. And John 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning. I like history, but they didn't know when Abijah that family group was serving. But in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it had the list. And so we see that Abijah was the 8th division, the 8th family group, and Jehoiarib was division 1. Now, why is that important? The temple in Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD, and we know when it was destroyed. It was the end of July or early August of 70 AD. And Josephus, who wrote the history of the Jews, he was a Jew that was basically co-opted by the Romans, and they wanted him to write a history of this now extinct people group, the Jews, that they had just finished wiping out, and okay, we'll write their history. And Josephus mentions that the Levite family group that was on duty at the temple at the time that the temple was destroyed was Jehoiarib, the first course. I know it's a little complicated, but it'll make sense. So if the end of July or early August is Jehoiarib, we can count down 8 weeks, and we can see that Abijah was on duty at the temple at the end of September. And here's the scripture from Luke. In the time of Herod, and he died in 4 BC, so we know that this was
here it is, baby.
sort
You
of
ready?
dates it
Watch
for us.
this.
In the time of Herod, king of Judah, there was a priest named Zechariah who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. And so Zechariah was in the temple at this end of September. That last week is the week that has the Day of Atonement and the Feast of Tabernacles. And so that's when the angel appeared unto Zechariah. And then he went back, and Elizabeth conceived. And so the Eastern Orthodox Church celebrates around September 23rd as the Feast of John the Baptist being conceived, as the forerunner of Christ. Now, why is that important? Zacharias,
Look at his face.
if
so
he's in the temple at the end of September, we know in the scriptures the angel appears to Mary. And she says, I'm the handmaid of the Lord. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon Mary, and she conceived Jesus. And then it has this line, and your cousin Elizabeth is in her 6th month. And so, if we know that Elizabeth conceives the end of September, 6 months after that is the end of March. And so the date of the end of March is when the conception of Jesus is celebrated. It's called the Annunciation. And then Elizabeth visits Mary. And so 9 months after the end of March is the end of December. Right? So did you catch that? So there actually is some justification and evidence for December 25th actually being the time that Jesus was born. And this wasn't actually confirmed until 1947. They discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they were able to piece together this order of the different priests. And so picking up with Luke. Is that interesting? Did you like that?
I love
So, so Luke 2, it says, and it came to pass in those days that there came out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. Augustus Caesar was the ruler of the most powerful, the biggest empire on the planet, and he wanted to tax everybody. It was his version of a worldwide tracking system. I mean, he wanted to count and to have a census and track everybody he controls. I just wonder how world leaders want to track everybody. And they all went to their town to be taxed, and so that's when Mary and Joseph go to Bethlehem, and Jesus is born fulfilling Scripture. And this is how big the Roman Empire was. And Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea, where unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, which being great with child. Luke 2, and suddenly there was the angel, a multitude of heavenly hosts praising God and saying, glory to God, O Lord. So nobody is ever going to question that God judges sin. But in that sense, Jesus had the book not to be served, but to, right? And the story is that Nicholas lived during this Roman persecution time.
So we did this.
Now, this is a big deal because the emperor by this time had been declaring themselves a god and demanding their image be worshipped and sprinkling gold dust in their hair, right? And so this was sort of like a god with a little g resigning. I just think it's sort of funny. Anyway, and so the next emperor's Galerius, he continues the persecution. He's struck with an intestinal disease. He dies in 311 AD. And now it's a toss-up between 4 generals as to which one is going to be the next emperor. 2 were quickly defeated, and now it's down to Constantine and Maxentius. Constantine is in York, England. He is a general. His men say, we're behind you, and they say, hail Caesar, and so he marches toward Rome. And as he's marching toward Rome, Maxentius decides to come out and have a battle at the Milvian Bridge. And so the day before the battle, supposedly Constantine sees the sign of Christ in the sky. And it's the first 2 Greek letters of the name Christ. And so the Hebrew is Messiah or the anointed one, but in Greek, that name is Christ. And the Greek letter that makes the K sound is an X, but it's called the chi. And the Greek letter that makes the sound is called rho, and it's written as a big P. So the first 2 Greek letters for the name of Christ are X and P, and they call it the chi rho. And so the 312 Battle of the Milvian Bridge, Constantine puts this symbol on all of his shields and symbols. He supposedly heard the words in hoc signo vinces, which means in this sign you'll be invincible. And so they would abbreviate IHSV. And so he wins. By the way, here's all the 3rd and 4th century artwork, but there's the IHSV in hoc signo vinces, and this sign you'll be invincible. And by the way, as the years went on, it got shortened just to the X called the chi, and it was called the Christ cross, and that's where you get Xmas. So Xmas isn't crossing out Christ, it's the Greek letter that stood for Christ, the chi. And then it became an oath where you tell the truth. Really going to tell the truth? Yeah. And you'd make the Christ cross, right? Cross my heart. Well, why? And then they would, if you're going to swear to keep your word on a document, you would sign it the Christ cross. And that's come down to us to sign it the X. And then they would kiss it to show sincerity, and that's what, on the bottom of the Valentines, that you're swearing before Christ that you're going to keep your word to this person, and you're kissing it to show sincerity. Do you like that? And so
I love Bill.
So Constantine officially ends the persecution of Christians in 313 AD. And now Nicholas is let out of jail. and he goes back to Myra, and he preaches against paganism. So, and infant exposure and divination. So they still had pagan temples where they did human sacrifice and exposure of unwanted infants. That was the Roman version of abortion, right? The mother would bear the child, lay it at the father's feet. If he picked it up and thought they could afford it and it looked healthy, they would keep it. But if he did not pick it up, the mother would have to put it in a basket and set it outside and let it die. And this is actually how Rome started, right? There was Romulus and Remus that were abandoned children, and a wolf came along and nursed them, right? And so the Romans would do this. And so if there was a couple, and the wife couldn't keep the kid, she would put it in a basket and lay it at the door of an older couple. Oh. And of course, that's where you get these stories, they knock on the door and the couple opens and there's a baby in the basket, right? Well, that was the Romans did. And so the Christians would gather up these babies and raise these orphans, and the Christians would preach against infant exposure. You read the speeches, it's very similar to Christians standing against abortion today, right? And anyway, so Nicholas, he's preaching against paganism, and nearby is the temple to Diana. It's one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was huge. It had 127 huge pillars and temple prostitutes. It was the Las Vegas of the Mediterranean. The Apostle Paul preached against Diana worship in Acts chapter 19. Remember that? Great is Diana, the goddess of the Ephesians. Her image fell from heaven, was this little pagan idol. And so Nicholas preaches against Diana worship so much. I mean, he's a fire and brimstone preacher. They tear the temple to Diana down.
That's awesome.
And then there's the Arian heresy. So for the first 3 centuries of Christianity, Christians really don't live long enough to argue over doctrine. They just, Jesus touched my life. And it's like, okay, kill you, And, but now there was a bishop named Arius, and he starts the first heresy. He says Jesus was a little less than God. He was a created being, and it begins to split the church. And the Visigoths, who were a tribe that came into Rome, they convert to Arianism, and it splits the church so much that it's having fallout politically for Constantine. It's like, look, Christians, I legalize you, now you're fighting, and it's splitting my kingdom. So Constantine not only orders, he pays for all the bishops around the world to come to one place and settle it, Nicaea, so they write the Nicene Creed. And again, the first time ever that all the bishops came to one place. And the story is that they obviously condemned Arius, and so there's Arius in the little pit down there. And so the story is that Nicholas was so upset at Arius for starting the Arian heresy that he slapped him across the face. So jolly old St. Nick had a little temper. You better watch out if he's coming to town. I was looking for some of these pictures on the internet, and I found this one. It says, I came to give presents to kids and to punch heretics. I just ran out of presents.
That's funny.
And so the Greeks have lots and lots of stories about him. I put it in my book, but some of the more notable ones is there's a famine, and the people didn't have food, and so Nicholas goes down and talks the sailors into their grain from North Africa. He talks them into unloading grain to feed his people and promises that God will bless them. And so they unload the grain, and then they get to Rome, and then when they're on the return trip, they said, yeah, the grain that was left had multiplied, and we had more than enough. Sort of like Elijah and the little widows and the meal barrel, right? And then there's the story of a storm. And the storm was so bad the sailors couldn't get back. And Nicholas goes down and prays, and the sea becomes calm, and the sailors can come back. And so he's also considered the patron saint of sailors. And he's often pictured with that. So right, there's the boat, and there's Nicholas, right? And it's calm in the sea. And then there's a corrupt politician, a governor. And he was doing corrupt things and was going to execute some soldiers who knew about it to cover up his evil, wicked deeds, sort of a body count list,
Oh, here.
And so Nicholas has a dream of all the corrupt stuff the governor did. He goes down to the execution spot, grabs the sword out of the executioner's hand, throws it down, and then in front of everybody tells all the details of what this corrupt governor was doing. And the governor realized that nobody could know all the details other than God. And so he begs Nicholas to pray for him that God would have mercy on his soul. Right? So thank God for pastors that have guts to stand up to corrupt governors. And so Nicholas dies December 6, 343 AD. And he is so popular. Again, he is like a founding father to the Greek Orthodox Church. So Justinian, who's a Christian Roman emperor, he builds a church and names it after Nicholas. Now, there's another emperor named Theodosius, and he outlaws paganism. And he outlaws human sacrifice, divination, destroys pagan temples, removes temple prostitutes, and he ends the Olympics. I don't know if you knew, but I went to school in Europe for 6 months, and we went to Athens, we went to Olympus. They ran the Olympics naked. The word gym for gymnasium, gym is the Greek word for naked. And so they would have these, a lot of the Greeks were into all those statues with no clothes on and everything, and they glorified the human body and so forth. So Theodosius was a Christian Roman emperor, so he outlaws the Olympics. But anyway, at this time, you have a bunch of nominal people that used to be pagans, and they flood into the church saying, well, since paganism is outlawed, I guess I'm a Christian, and whatever the state doctrine is, I'm for it. And so you have a lot of people come in that didn't really have a heart change. But during this time, you have a church built that's named after Nicholas, and it's in Demre, Turkey today. And so but in Islam, you're forbidden to repair a church when it's collapsing. And so these churches would just end up collapsing. But it's named after Nicholas. Then a couple other things. So the Eastern Orthodox Church, they celebrated the 3 wise men visiting as the most important day of the season, because that's when Jesus is revealed to the world. And it's called Epiphany. But the Catholic West celebrated December 25th, the birth of Jesus, as the holiest day. And they could not decide which day was holier. So at the Consular Tours in 567 AD, they decided to make all 12 days between December 25th and January 6th the 12 days of Christmas. And they call them holy days, which we pronounce today holiday. And so it's not the 12 days leading up to Christmas, it's the 12 days between December 25th and January 6th. And then Russia had an emperor named Vladimir the Great, and he was pagan, but he decided he was going to embrace monotheism. So he throws all the Russian pagan tribal gods into the Dnieper River, and then he lets the word out that he's going to embrace monotheism. And so the Jews, called Khazars, they come and they tell him about their faith, and he's like, yeah, but you were kicked out of your city, and why should I? And then some Catholics come, and then the Muslims come. And the first chronicle of Russia, of Vladimir's court, it says, when the Muslim ambassadors told Vladimir that paradise was filled full of virgins, he liked it because he was very fond of women. But then it says where they could no longer drink alcohol. Vladimir said, we cannot have this because drink is the joy of the Russes, the Russians. I think it's funny that Russia did not convert to Islam because Vladimir liked to drink. But then the Greek Orthodox came. And these Greek Orthodox said, look, we speak Greek, the language of the New Testament. Our land was where John spoke and Paul spoke. And some of the ambassadors from Russia had gone to Constantinople and into the Hagia Sophia. And it's 165 feet high, 102 foot across dome. And the ambassador said, it was like walking into heaven. And so Vladimir converts to Eastern Orthodox Christianity, and he adopts Nicholas as the patron saint of Russia. So that's why you have so many Russian czars named Nicholas and Nikolai and so forth. And so then we have Islam invades, and they conquer into Turkey. And so they conquered Egypt, which used to be Christian, evangelized by Mark. And then they conquered North Africa, which used to be Christian. There used to be 250 Catholic dioceses along North Africa. St. Augustine of Hippo was from Carthage. Today, that's Tunisia. Then they invaded Spain in 711 AD. And in 10 years, they conquered all of Spain. And then the Turks convert to Islam, and they conquer into what is today Turkey. All 7 churches mentioned in the book of Revelation were wiped out by the Muslim Turks. And as they're conquering, they would destroy churches and then they would destroy graves. And so this is when the Christians move the remains of St. Nicholas from Myra over to a little town in Italy called Bari, B-A-R-I. And so the Pope dedicates the church. And it's called Cattedrale Niccolò de Bari, Cathedral of Nicholas of Bari. That's where they put the remains of St. Nicholas. But this introduces this Greek saint and all the gift giving that went along on the anniversary of his death to Western Europe. And the Western Europeans really liked that. And by the way, the Pope that dedicates this Cattedrale Niccolò de Bari is Urban II. And you may not be up on all your Pope names, but that's the same Urban II that had so many Greeks fleeing that he went to the consul of Claremont and begged the European kings to send help. And they do. It's called the First Crusade. Right? So the same Pope that welcomed the Nicholas's remains to Western Europe is the one that called for the First Crusade to rescue these Greeks who were being killed. And so there's, now the Islam had 14 centuries of crusades, and it's still going on. But these Europeans had these 2 centuries of crusades. And, the remains of Nicholas were taken from there over to Bari, Italy. This was interesting. This is 2009. The Turkish newspaper says, Turkish cultural and tourism minister Ertuğrul Güney told reporters in Antalya Sunday that there were plans to demand the return of the bones of St. Nicholas. So they're like, we want them back. But now that these gift-giving traditions on December 6th are in Western Europe, and it's so popular that St. Francis of Assisi creates the nativity scene, sort of in protest, saying all the gift giving is fine, but we need to get back. He will be one of those riding a white horse. But as the city.
Okay, so I'm going to stop that here because I think we went over a lot of that. Obviously, you know where I got it from. So 2,000 years of Christmas, all the way from the very inception of Jesus, has December 25th. Now, what we didn't go over was the Bethlehem Star movie, which actually has, lo and behold, how cool is this? The Magi showing up to see the Christ child on December 25th. And that would have been when Jesus was a toddler. So how cool is it, like God, to bring birthday presents to his son and his son's family on his birthday? And I think that there is something to celebrating people's birthdays. And I believe that this is the tradition where it really begins. And what the Pilgrims did is they celebrated the call of God on your life. And I think that by the Magi bringing gold, frankincense, and myrrh, what they were doing is that they were celebrating the call of God on the life of Jesus, bringing gold to a king, frankincense, and myrrh. Myrrh would have been what they would use to embalm, and not really embalm, but to it would be for the death, the burial, the life, the death, and the burial of Jesus. And so I really think that when you bring it all together, I think more and more I understand Christmas, the more I really truly believe it is the birthday of Jesus. I believe that God has wanted us to celebrate it, and throughout the years it's been kind of squashed or used wrongfully. But I really believe that it is his birthday and it's celebrated and should be celebrated. I think, are you ready to get out of the papoose, young Padawan? He just loves to be held. Like he will sit there at your feet and cry to be held. So since the early days of Christianity, biblical scholars and theologians have offered varying interpretations of the meaning of the significance of gold, frankincense, and myrrh that the Magi presented to Jesus, according to the Gospel of Matthew 2:11. These valuable items were standard gifts to honor a king or a deity in the ancient world. Gold is a precious metal, frankincense is perfume or incense, and myrrh as anointing oil. In fact, these same 3 items were apparently among the gifts recorded in ancient inscriptions that King Seleucus II Callinicus offered to the god Apollo at the temple of Miltiades in 243 BCE. The book of Isaiah, when describing Jerusalem's glorious restoration, tells of nations and kings who will come and bring gold and frankincense and shall proclaim the praise of the Lord. Isaiah 60, verse 6. Although Matthew's gospel does not include the names or number of the Magi, many believe that they were 3 for each gift. In the addition to the honor and status implied by the value of the gifts, of the Magi. Scholars think that these three were chosen for their special spiritual symbolism about Jesus. Gold representing his kingship, frankincense a symbol of his priestly role, and myrrh a prefiguring of his death and embalming, an interpretation made popular with the song We Three Kings. Still others have suggested the gifts of the Magi were a bit more practical, even medicinal in nature. Researchers of Cardiff University have demonstrated that frankincense has an active ingredient that can help relieve arthritis by inhibiting the inflammation that breaks down cartilage tissue and causes arthritis pain. Well, yeah, obviously, it's good for you. I always recommend people use frankincense for like everything. And myrrh is great too, and we all know about gold. So I think that it would be befitting to actually sing that song, but I want to go over a little bit more here. If there's a little bit more, the gold mines of Arabia and East Africa were famous in ancient times, and the gold is still mined in Saudi Arabia today. In the Nabatean region of northwest Arabia, called the Hejaz, is the ancient, incredibly wealthy gold mine called the MAHA Da'abi, or the Cradle of Gold. Archaeologists have discovered at the site huge quantities of waste rock left by the ancient miners, still containing traces of gold.
Oh, wow.
Thousands of stone hammers and grindstone used to extract the gold from the ore litter the mined slopes. The value of gold is timeless, but the precious quality of the wise men's other two gifts is not immediately obvious to the people of the 21st century. Everyone was not only a believer in the supernatural realm, but virtually everyone practiced his religion. Part of their religious duty was to burn incense in the temples of their gods and goddesses. The first mention of the use of incense in worship is in the Egyptian text from the 3rd millennium BC. Its use spread to Mesopotamia, and by Roman times, in pagan temples across the empire, incense was offered to the gods daily. Historian Jane Taylor observes the growth of Rome had ushered in a period of almost obsessive incense burning. Besides its use in medicine and worship, no Roman funeral was complete without vast quantities of frankincense, whose fragrant smoke was thought to put in a good word to the gods for the welfare of the departed. Like frankincense, myrrh was made from a gum resin, dried and compressed and burnt to produce an aromatic smoke. In addition to the fragrant smoke, it was also used as a rich perfume. Myrrh was also used to treat conditions ranging from battle wounds to skin inflammations. Jesus was offered wine mingled with myrrh as a painkiller at the crucifixion. The frankincense was tapped from trees that only grew in southern Arabia and limited areas of East Africa. The myrrh came from the wider area in southern Arabia, but both frankincense and myrrh could only be harvested once a year. The production was labor-intensive and the yield small. Nevertheless, the quantities of frankincense and myrrh the Arabians produced was huge. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh were without a doubt the richest gifts that could be offered to a newborn king. But their significance lies not so much in their religious symbolism, nor in their fabulous wealth they represented. Instead, the gifts themselves are clues to the identity of the wise men. Throughout the ancient Middle East, gifts were given and received as diplomatic gestures. Josephus records how, when Herod completed building the city of Caesarea Maritima in 9 BC, envoys from many nations came to Palestine with gifts. The gifts would not simply be luxurious. They would also represent the finest produce from the country of origin. Likewise, when military leaders conquered a country, the neighboring rulers would approach him with offers of tribute. When the psalmist writes, "Kings of Tarshish and the isles shall bring him tribute. The kings of Saba shall offer other gifts," the Jews would have understood these royal treasures as offering acknowledging heir allegiance to the king. Furthermore, not only were tribute gifts given to conquering kings, but it was customary for neighboring monarchs to offer gifts to the birth of the future king. In 6 BC, the political situation between the Nabaean king Aretas IV and Herod the Great was exactly what you would expect for tribute gifts to be made. Aretas' claim to the throne was shaky. Herod had just worked with the lawyers of Aretas' court to persuade the Emperor Augustus that a joint enemy of Aretas and Herod was a scoundrel. Aretas had already sent tribute gifts to Caesar, and only grudgingly had Caesar Augustus finally accepted the gifts and given his approval to Aretas' fourth's claim to the Nabaean throne. If Aretas sent sweeteners to Caesar, it makes sense that he would do the same for Herod when the proper opportunity arose. Furthermore, Augustus had returned the crucial port of Gaza to Herod, so it was vital for Aretas IV to remain in Herod's good graces in order to get his goods across Judean territory to the port. When the wise men of his court announced that they had discerned from the stars that a new king of the Jews was born, Aretas IV would have made every move to send envoys to Herod's court in Jerusalem to present gifts that were not only rich and regal, but also representative of the wealth and the power of Aretas' Nabatean kingdom. So, while it makes a good preaching point that the gold, frankincense, and myrrh stood for Christ's kingship, divinity, and sacrificial death, the true significance of the gifts is that they support the thesis that the wise men were Nabatian sages from the court of Aretas IV on a diplomatic mission to Judea. Huh. That's it. That's the story.
It's interesting.
That's interesting. Let's sing it. Let's sing
However,
no, we're not. However,
the both of Michelle's
oh my gosh, here we go.
Homestead hands, face and body butter have both frankincense and myrrh
They do.
in them.
They do.
Specifically designed
They do.
to help with your skin.
They do.
So I'm just throwing that out there. You want some Jesus juice? Okay, that's overselling it a little bit, but
Oh my goodness.
I did just say that.
Did you do
it's
that?
Christmas. I can do what I want.
You know what I don't think I have?
Learning so much, says Shauna. I'm glad
There
you're
it is.
learning so much. Now, we are going to get to this story. That's the main headline.
Yeah, maybe.
Has MAHA been,
We may.
we are going to, because Michelle said so. I like to check the boxes, and if it's in the title and the description and on the headline and advertised everywhere, we're going to get to it. No, we're going to do it today.
We're going to sing Christmas songs the rest of the night.
No, we're not.
All night long.
We're not going to do that.
Till the break of dawn.
So you want to go to, no, we're going to do one Christmas song, then we're going to go to the story, then we'll come back to the Christmas songs.
Fine.
That's the deal. Take it or leave it.
Here. We're bartering. I just want to skip that story now and just go to the Christmas carols.
No.
Yep, makes
Nope.
me happy.
Nope.
Okay.
All right, so now I need to get some lyrics.
Yeah, We Three Kings. It's a great song, man. It's one of the best. Oh, I lost my pick.
But we need to have the same lyrics.
I think they're the same.
No, they're not, because every time
They
we
never
think that.
stop. We're not doing the bare naked ladies. There's 2 pens down there.
Oh, that's great.
I know.
That's because Leah's got a clicking problem. She's got a clicking addiction.
I do. What's your New Year's resolution?
Stop clicking.
Nope.
Yep,
Never.
gonna happen.
Is that 2? It's kind of off, man.
Now would be such a great time for me to take you guys to. Oh my gosh, it's over. Just kidding. Can't do
Which
it.
one?
The I think that the Brighteon store, they had a sale, but I think it ended on the 26th.
Oh, really?
Yep. Oh, but you know who is offering a sale, and I can take you there because I didn't mention this. I didn't mention this in the things that I took. I did take the detox, the spike detox. So let me go over here. So my go-to stack right now is running a 20% off discount. So our promo code gets you 10%, but right now they have a 20%. This will not affect us. It doesn't benefit us at all. I'm just telling you to go because I want you guys to get them. But this immunity, this would help you to keep from getting sick. Both of them actually. There's the vitamins and then there's the herbals and then the detox. And then you can get the whole kit down here as a bundle. I would do that because right now is the time that they're doing the 20% off.
And remember, I know that that's expensive. I know that that's expensive. But if you get sick,
it's worth it.
It's all in one packet. And if you can't afford it, I say do it. If you can't, we'll just pray.
Yeah,
Okay?
we'll pray.
Because Dr. Syed Hyder is the one who got everybody through COVID. He knows what works.
He didn't lose out of 2,000 patients. He didn't
it
lose
was like
one.
5,000.
It's like crazy.
Yeah.
So, but right now, until for the next 4 days, you can get 20% off.
And if
there.
you're going to pick one, pick the detox.
Yeah.
Because I think the immunity has like, what does immunity have in it?
Well, there's the vitamins, and then there's the herbals.
So
it's
what's
two
the
different
herbals in the
things.
immunity?
Well, this is the vitamins.
So that's the
Bromelain, quercetin.
You can get that cheaper other places. I know that that's super expensive. Is there a different immunity?
Yeah, the herbals.
What's in the herbal one?
Well, we're going to look here.
So that's
With
got
curcumin, dandelion, and piperine, and Nigella sativa.
So that's black seed oil. You could probably salvage those, pull them all together, but I know he's got them all together for a reason like that. The curcumin is is turmeric, which you can get pretty cheap places. You can get black seed oil.
The dandelion extract. And then black pepper.
So
or it's a black pepper extract.
Yeah, so that is expensive, but the detox with the serapeptase and the nattokinase, I feel like that is, it's really good if you think you're going to get COVID because it's like great for blood clots and stuff. We three kings of Orient are bearing gifts, we travel so far, field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star.
I'm going to try to follow Leah's earthy version here.
Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Born a king on Bethlehem plain, gold I bring to crown him again, king forever, ceasing never, over us all to reign. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Frankincense to offer have I, incense on the deity night, prayer and praising, home and raising, worship him, O God on high. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Myrrh is mine, it's a bitter perfume, breeze a life of gathering gloom, Clara sighing, bleeding, dying, sealed in a stone cold tomb. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. My favorite verse. Glorious now, behold him arise, King and God at sacrifice. Heaven sings hallelujah, hallelujah, the earth replies. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, westward leading, still proceeding, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.
had to channel my inner coffee shop for that. It was good. Glorious now, behold him arise. It was deep. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's a good version.
It's a little bit nasally because we're still getting this.
No, I mean the way you sang it.
That's how we do Christmas carols. It's my favorite way. And I love it. I just love it. It's my favorite thing.
We three kings of Orient are. We could make it like hip. Bearing gifts, we traverse afar. Field and fountains, more mountains, guiding us to thy. I messed up the words.
I don't know what you're talking about, Willis.
Okay, so
let's
go
by
to
YouTube,
these people.
By Facebook. We're going to talk about the jab.
You really want me to cancel YouTube?
Yeah.
You don't think that all of our talk about all the help earlier for stuff would be enough for them to delete us on YouTube?
I'm just telling you, they're going to delete the whole thing anyways, but I'm not going to give it to them. This stuff, these people are going to be talking about, like, they're going to be debating it. So.
All right, so I'm putting the Rumble link in the chat on YouTube and on Facebook. And Leah, what is so censorable? Let's give them whet their appetite. Why do they want to come and watch this?
Callie Bowden has been an anti-jabber. She was fired from her hospital job in Texas, I believe. She had to sue because she would not take the jab. And she has been a very adamant and outspoken. Now, she and a guy I haven't heard of, Dr. Jack Cruz here, are going to debate and kind of call to account Callie Means. Now, Callie and his sister, I don't remember her name right off the top of my head, have been going on all these shows to talk about the pharmaceutical industry and basically how bad medicine is. However, what these two people, Dr. Mary and Dr. Jack, are upset about is this brother and sister came on the scene kind of out of nowhere, kind of took over the talk show podcast world, and they have some very sketchy background. Now they come at it as, hey, we're going to expose where we came from, but there's just something a little bit off about them. And when they are pressed on would you call to get rid of the jab for kids, they will not. And so, goodbye.
Okay, so bye-bye Facebook, bye-bye YouTube.